Kelly, could we go ahead and have roll call?
Yes, thank you. Council Member Romack.
Here.
Vice Mayor Klobstad.
Here.
Mayor Zabriskie.
Here.
Council Member Henderson.
Here.
And Council Member Pallavi.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Before we move on with the agenda, I ask that we briefly reflect on our communities in Southern California and the people who live there in experiencing the wildfires and their aftermath. We've seen the images and videos, how thousands of homes have burnt like trees in a forest fire. Neighborhoods, one after another, have been destroyed. And many of those old and grand communities of the LA area up against the mountains might never return. Many of us have friends or family that have been directly impacted. I grew up south of the Eaton Canyon fire. I remember those communities and have relatives in or near the burn areas. They survived with their homes intact, but suddenly are without neighbors who lost their homes. The fires are a profound tragedy. The threats of wildfire is very real for all of us, here as well as there. It's something we prepare for, we plan against, and continue to fear. To those in LA, please understand you are not alone. Communities like Truckee and across the state and nation offer support in whatever ways we can. We have witnessed the strength of unity and compassion, and we extend them to you. Councilmember Henderson has taken the initiative to coordinate efforts to help those in need in the LA area, and she is going to share more about these efforts. We encourage the residents of Truckee to help with these efforts by contributing supplies for the Southland. The Town Council thanks Truckee Fire, CAL FIRE, and other local fire departments for their support in combating these wildfires. To those of you in the LA area, as you look ahead, remember that so many communities do care. We want to help. We believe in your strength to rebuild and recover, your resilience and your courage. Councilmember Henderson, would you share with us how you're working to assist these communities?
Thank you, Mayor Zabriskie. Thank you to everyone for coming here tonight. It's so lovely to have a full chamber. It doesn't often happen for us, so thank you. As Mayor Zabriskie mentioned, wildfire truly does impact all of us in California, whether it's the threat of it, the direct experience with it, or the ramifications of it as we think about our wildfire insurance coverage. Just as we are one region here in Tahoe, we are also one California. A lot of folks say rural communities are small. We're small, but we're mighty, especially when we band together. And so my hope over this next week is that we band together to come together and bring essential goods for those who have been through these wildfires and who are struggling in Southern California. In Truckee, we have 3 locations for drop-off of essential services. Essential goods. All of the goods we're collecting from today through next Tuesday. I will personally be driving a probably 26-foot box truck down to LA next Wednesday with all of the goods that we collect here in Truckee. There are very specific items that are needed. We are donating to the LA Dream Center, which is a nonprofit that has been in LA for a very long time, providing services to its community. I have flyers in the back. They look like this, and I'm just going to read off the items that we're accepting. We're only accepting what they actually need. So they need brand new socks, underwear, and bras, diapers and baby formula, toilet paper and paper towels, canned food and non-perishables, granola bars, individually wrapped snacks, Gatorade, water, things like that, large trash bags, gloves and safety goggles, and air purifiers. As you'll see on the flyer in the back, we have 3 drop-off locations already established in Truckee. They started collecting supplies today. One is the Truckee Welcome Center. Thank you so much to our partners at the Chamber of Commerce and to Jessica Penman, who took my call at 8 a.m. yesterday morning to mobilize right away. One is at our new Rec and Park building. I say new, even though it's been there for many years, just to distinguish from the old one. Thank you to Sven and everyone over at Rec and Park, who similarly took my call immediately and was willing to establish a collection site over there. And then right here at Truckee Town Hall. They all have different hours to try to provide a range of hours when you can drop off your different essential items. So grab some of those. I'm also excited to share that several other jurisdictions are coming together as part of this effort. So I got confirmation today that Mammoth Lakes has established collection. They're going to be collecting over the next week and also driving supplies down to LA. Kings Beach and Tahoe City, we're working to get a collection site established on the North Shore, and South Lake Tahoe is also doing the same. So I think this really shows that we can band together as rural communities, we can support our urban counterparts, and we truly are one California. I hope you will help share the word, take flyers, put them up in town. It's all over our social media. It's on our partners' social media. I mentioned the chamber. I also really want to thank VTT and especially Colleen. She has been instrumental in this, and several of our other partner agencies who are contributing. I also just want to reiterate thank you to Truckee Fire. We have an engine and 5 firefighters down there right now. So thank you for all that you do as a community. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for spreading the word. And let's support those who need it most right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Courtney. Now is time for general public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record, if you will. Come up to the podium over here. Comments, as you know, are limited to 3 minutes. And the council might choose to acknowledge your comments or ask for further action of the staff or briefly provide an answer, but we're not allowed to go into any discussion on the merits of your presentation. So who do we have first?
There we go. Good evening, Kelly Cutler, Truckee Cultural District Program Manager and Board Member for Truckee Chamber. Thank you, town staff and town council, for highlighting and celebrating the arts in our community by including Truckee Dance Factory on the agenda. As we look at the year ahead, and we're facing some of our most pressing issues related to affordable housing, climate impacts, wildfire mitigation, workforce equity, and administration changes discussing potentially the complete elimination of the National Endowment for the Arts. We encourage leaning into our creative community for innovative problem solving. If you're considering other presentations, Nevada County Arts Council has just named our next poet laureate. Not allowed to announce who that is, but I'll give you a hint. It is a Truckee-based individual, so stay tuned. Press release coming soon. And I am so excited to see this performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Good evening. My name is Bob Ferwerda, and I'm here to talk about the article that was in the Moonshine Inc. on December 12th dealing with planning issues. I relate to that because I've had the same kind of problems, and I've handed out my speech, but I'll just read it for the record. I am here to discuss my experience related to the Moonshine Inc. article on December 12th. I have had similar experiences dealing with the town's community development staff in my effort to permit an ADU and a junior ADU. I'm a long-term resident and property owner in Truckee. I have an extensive background in permitting and construction of residential projects. I am a civil engineer, a structural engineer, licensed in California since 1970 and licensed in Nevada since 2008. I am also licensed as an engineering contractor and as a building contractor since 1977. I've been around a while. I was a qualified member of the Town Building Appeals Board until it was replaced by your council a few years ago. I was the construction engineer for Tahoe Donner Development, the Alder Creek Road Project, and the Donner Lake Water Intake and Pipeline Project. I have designed, engineered, permitted, and constructed over 100 dwelling projects in 8 jurisdictions, including TRPA in Northern California. I have also prepared and consummated 6 residential lot splits. The reason that I'm before you is that I've been working for over 3 years to permit an ADU and a junior ADU without success because of improper and illegal actions by the staff of the Community Development Department. I have not been treated fairly and have been abused. I am requesting a statutory hearing as required by state law by the town's Building Appeal Board. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verwerder. Are there any other general public comments? If not, we'll now move on to the presentations. And we're going to start with the administration of the oath of office to our 2 re-elected incumbents.
Where do you want us?
Here, right here.
Okay, right here.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, in your name,
I,
Lindsay
Henderson,
Romack,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend
to support and
the
defend
Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United
and
States
the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I bear true faith and allegiance
I bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully
the
discharge
duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's official now. Yeah, lucky. Okay, the next item is a presentation by the students of the Truckee Dance Factory. This is a very special event, and so I think what we might do is we might go down below to watch this event, get up close, and you're ready to begin, I guess. Okay.
Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road. And although this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone. 'Cause I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. The trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. The trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. 'Cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
And could we have could we have a brief description of the dance troupe?
PJ, would you like to join the mayor over at the podium and
My name is PJ Curran, and I am the co-owner and director of Truckee Dance Factory. We're over in the Pioneer Commerce Center, and we are so honored to be invited to perform here, and also really great for the kids to kind of have a taste of this process and what happens here in this building. And yes, to second the arts, we absolutely love and appreciate the invitation to be performing and keeping the arts going in the community and having that availability for the kids. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to take about a 10-minute recess for refreshments and treats. And that'll allow us to rearrange the chairs. And then one of the council members has already suggested that we commission this group to come back maybe once a month to do a different performance each time. We'll cover that later. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. David? We're back in session, and next on the agenda is a presentation by B-Cycle. I believe it's Brian Conger.
Yes, Brian will join us. I'll kick off with a few
Okay.
slides, if that's okay, Your Honor.
Of course.
Okay. Alfred Knotts, Transportation Program Manager. Good evening, Your Honor, Mr. Mayor, and members of Town Council, and happy belated New Year to all of you. We're back before you to give a presentation on the annual B-Cycle program. We concluded the second year of this, and just wanted to give a little background on this also before we do hand over to Brian from B-Cycle. So I know this is very, very wordy. I will not attempt to read this or anything, but I do want to give some context to the role that B-Cycle and the transportation, or that the bike share program plays in the overall transportation strategy. It's obviously not a silver bullet by any means to fix solutions, but it is to provide additional opportunities and alternatives to the automobile. So I just wanted to highlight how this does fit into the general plan and highlight two specific policies and action items within there. And just highlighted in the bold font where that B-Cycle, or actually the bike share, is touched on within our general plan. It is sprinkled throughout other elements of it, but within the mobility element, you will find some references to a bike share program and why we do this and where it does fit into the overall strategy. So just wanted to highlight that. Also wanted to highlight a little bit of the background about how we got here. This is one of the first endeavors and initiatives that I embarked on once coming onto the town. So we did start this in March 2022. We did not go into a 2022 season. There were some supply chain issues. This was really on the heels or still kind of in the throes of COVID, and then the economic conditions that were exacerbated by that. We did conclude our priority selection, and then as you can see, we kind of went through this whole kind of cyclical process of launching. We launched first in June of 2023. We had a great ribbon cutting down there. It actually was a Truckee Thursday evening, so that did help kind of get the word out and the visibility. And we concluded on October 2023, and then did a presentation similar to this in December 2023, and then the cycle kind of repeated itself. I did want to highlight that we are coming up on 2025 season. Will be the third year of this program. When we did the RFP, there was a 3-year commitment by the vendor, whoever that might be. So we are going into the third year right now, and Brian will hit on some of those aspects of what year 3 will look like. And we do plan to launch the season 3 similar to last year, around that May, June, April period, depending on the season of snow we hopefully will have more of. So with that, I will be handing the presentation back over to Brian, so hopefully that goes seamlessly.
Great, thank you, Alfred. And are people able to see my screen and hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak to you, at least virtually tonight. A little bit of a background, as Alfred indicated, my name is Brian Conger. I am the Chief Business Officer for Bicycle Transit Systems. And formerly, I was the Executive Director of B-Cycle LLC, which was the equipment and supplier that you have selected to bring bike share to Truckee. I'm based out of Madison, Wisconsin, and I've been with B-Cycle for over 13 years in various capacities. And specific to Truckee, I directly support the local team that runs the Truckee B-Cycle program. That outside of working for B-Cycle, I love getting on a bike myself with my family. I have a 5 and a 2-year-old and a foreign exchange student this year. So we have not made it out to Truckee cycling as a family yet, but is definitely on the docket. You have a beautiful community with a lot of great places to ride a bike. So appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Want to touch base and give a little bit of an update, something Alfred mentioned. So Bicycle Transit Systems purchased B-Cycle from Trek Bicycle this past October. Prior to doing that, Bicycle Transit Systems has actually been a longtime partner of B-Cycle. We've provided the equipment and software for the bicycle transit operated systems in Los Angeles and in Philadelphia and Las Vegas for about a decade now. With this acquisition, B-Cycle, which is a wholly owned subsidiary formerly of Trek, is now fully owned by BTS, and BTS has taken on the mantle of really leading on our contracts and continuing to fulfill our obligations. With that, Bike Transit Systems becomes the only vertically integrated docked bike share operator in the country, with the goal of really leveraging this vertical integration to really scale the services that we provide in Truckee and other communities across the country. A bit of background on Bicycle Transit Systems. So this company was founded by Allison Cohen. She was the former president of Alta Bike Share. In that capacity, she launched some of the largest bike share systems that you know of today. City Bike in New York City, the Boston system, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Los Angeles. She's been an industry leader in bike share operations and support. And as I mentioned, Bicycle Transit Systems also operated the programs in Philadelphia and Los Angeles. Our current CEO is Kristen Gavin, who is pictured on the right there, and she is who I directly report to. But as a company, Bicycle Transit is really focused on bringing to life their true values as a company, which really focus on being diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice driven, and really focus on delivering a high level of quality service to communities, the riders, and the employees that we serve across our markets. And those markets include Truckee B-Cycle, but there's 13 systems across the country that are directly operated by Bicycle Transit Systems. Beyond these 13, there's an additional 15 markets that Bicycle Transit System supports by providing equipment and software as a service, as well as contracted customer service. And this acquisition really aligned a lot of our shared missions at B-Cycle and at Bicycle Transit. So we really are continuing to be focused on making sure that everybody has access to a bike. And we operate bike share systems that really create connections in our communities, but also protect our planet. And as I alluded, the values of being DEI driven, innovative, and responsible, those ring true to what B-Cycle has been since we started under Trek. But really, I think provides us opportunity to be stronger together as a vertically integrated company that is exclusively focused on delivering bike share to systems that we serve. So this merger, this acquisition is really a move to help us have greater stability in an industry that has been very challenging at times. And we believe this ultimately allows us to better serve the riders in the communities that we support. So that's a bit of a backdrop on Bicycle Transit Systems and specifically the purchase of B-Cycle from Trek and kind of what that has meant for us and what that has meant for Truckee. Above all, I would say that I should just clarify a couple points on this. All of B-Cycle's employees have fully transitioned to Bicycle Transit Systems. So the same people that have been designing and supporting the systems are still doing so, just under the ownership of Bicycle Transit Systems. And also, we've been able to pull this transition off without any disruption to rider service. We're continuing to migrate software systems, but for the rider, nothing changes. All accounts and ridership has remained seamless throughout this transition, which was goal number one for us as we went into this transition. I'm going to transition gears a little bit and zoom in to specifically Truckee B-Cycle and give a recap of our 2024 season. So this year we closed, as Alfred mentioned, in October. We ended the year 53% more trips year over year than our initial first season. Estimated 30,000 miles ridden, which translates to about 28,000 pounds of carbon offset through people going by bike instead of motor vehicles in Truckee. When we look at where those trips have been taken, similar to last year, the station at Glenshire Legacy Trailhead continues to be our number one station. We also had strong ridership out of Pocket Park and Eagle Plaza, which were respectively 2 and 3 in terms of checkouts. I do want to point out we had made some moves kind of late last season into the beginning of this season. Specifically, the station is East Jaboom and Truckee Way Roundabout was a new location, and that came out strong in terms of ridership. We also had great success with Trout Creek Trailhead, which was a new location for us this year. We did try relocating a station to the lift workspace kind of midway through the season, thinking that that might get some traction for potential ridership. That one didn't necessarily take off as we might have thought initially, but overall, like I said, we were focused this year on really kind of moving some of the stations around to be in locations where we thought they would maximize connections and access and ultimately ridership. When you look at those trips, there's a variety of ways people use the program, which I'll get into with some of the survey results. But just under 60% of our trips were one-way trips, meaning people check the bike out from one location and return it somewhere else. And then the other difference of those 42% of trips being round trip, where you start and end at the same trip, which is often symbolic of maybe a recreational ride, but not always, but oftentimes people going out and experiencing a trail and bringing the bike right back to where they started when they're done. When we look at trips by rider type, we had just about a third of our trips this season were done by what I would call a member. We had a monthly pass available throughout the season. Towards the tail end of the year, we did offer a discounted season pass as an incentive for more locals to give it a try and ride it through the rest of the season at a discounted rate. So we did see some success on that. But then the majority of our trips were continued to take by what I would call casual passes. So either people just paying for a single trip or purchasing a 3-day pass. And I do want to bring up that that doesn't necessarily mean that they are just visitors. I think oftentimes the way somebody first experiences bike share is as a walk-up renter to see how it works and give it a try. Oftentimes it is then on us to convert them to a more regular rider or purchasing a monthly membership pass. But you can see the split of how people are using the system today. When you look at popular times to ride, we do have higher ridership on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday being our heaviest ridership days. And peak ridership is really taking place in that late morning into early evening times, which is similar with what we've seen in other markets of operation. But it does give insight to being more of a recreational amenity for many of our riders. And that makes sense when you look at the portion of trips taken by those casual pass holders as to when they are using the service. This here is a heat map. So this would actually be from GPS data that's gathered from people using the system. This shows you, at least beyond the stations that we serve, that people do use these bikes to get all around the region. But you can certainly see routes in areas of town that are more popular and are frequented by B-cycles. And then this gets into some of the responses from our survey data. So we conduct an annual survey for anybody that's used the program, both as a visitor or as a member. We had about 100 respondents complete the survey this year. When you look at those that did submit responses, the majority of these survey responses were from people that had taken between 2 to 10 trips, which was 53% of responses, and then about a third of the respondents took a single trip. When asked how many of those B-cycle trips replaced a car, it was really split. For some people saying about 40% saying none of them replaced a car trip, another third of people responding that all of their trips replaced car trips. So really continuing to see a mix of how people are using it. When you look at why they are using B-cycle for those trips, the biggest response was just going out for a bike ride and for exercise, which was 60% of respondents. And I should note that survey respondents can select all that apply here. So it could be a combination of things of going out for a bike ride or going someplace for an activity. But you can see some of the more popular responses to replace a car trip, to get to and from a social activity. And we're still also seeing a number of people that are just using the service out of curiosity to try an e-bike. I think oftentimes both in survey results like this, but also in qualitative feedback we get, our system is oftentimes a gateway for somebody trying out an e-bike, which is oftentimes an expensive purchase, but they can access an e-bike experience for a low cost of entry, which then also sets them up for maybe going to a local retailer and purchasing an e-bike once they've had a great experience doing so. So that showed up in our results as well. And then looking at this next one is kind of a couple different ways that we look at rider satisfaction. So of the survey respondents, over 90% of the survey respondents were either very satisfied or moderately satisfied with B-Cycle. And just under half of them would self-classify as a promoter, giving it a rank of a 9 or a 10 out of a scale of 10 likelihood that they would recommend B-Cycle to a friend or colleague. Our overall net promoter score was a 35, which at least in net promoter scores is a good score. Certainly always working to figure out ways that we can drive greater promotion and specifically identify areas of friction that might cause somebody to not have a great experience or be a detractor. So we do take close attention to the feedback we get from both the annual survey, but then also the end of ride surveys that we will send out to people that give us a try. And then here, I'm not going to read these, but if you can see, these are just some of my favorite parts from the survey are oftentimes just the qualitative feedback we get in people's comments. So it gives a bit of a flavor about individuals that have all ridden the program and what some of their thoughts and feedback has been that they wanted to share. From here, you can see just people are impressed with the convenience and how easy it has been and just allowing them to get out and explore the trails on a bike. This next one is a little bit more. I like some of these personally. I think just it shows to me that people are using the program to get out and experience Truckee in new ways, whether them being a resident or a longtime visitor, but also using the system to show others how to get around on a B-Cycle and an e-bike in Truckee. So I really think that our goal is really to get people on and around Truckee on bikes and have fun doing so. So it's always great when we hear these stories come back in these surveys. The last thing when we look forward, so that's kind of looking back in 2024, as Alfred mentioned, we are entering our third season of a 3-year pilot. Truckee continues to gain traction and adoption with ridership in the community, but we are not operating a financially sustainable program, from ridership revenue alone. When we brought the program here to Truckee, I think we were curious, given all of the amenities of the market, and we don't have many operations that we run like this seasonally, where we truly have a limited summer season to try and get people riding bikes and cover expenses. So it has been a learning experience for us in that. One of the things that we are talking and working with Alfred on is how might we approach a more financially sustainable program and what might be some avenues for us to identify a path forward beyond this 3-year pilot. As of right now, we are continuing to lose money on the operation in Truckee, but we do remain committed to exploring ways that we might be able to close that gap, because it isn't a huge gap, but finding ways that could work for us and for the community to really bring this program to fruition for the long term is really our goal. I think we've now gotten stuck our toe in the pool, if you will, felt the water, and I think there's been a lot of positives. And if anything, I want to really give just great praise to all of the interactions we've had with the town and staff. Have just been everything we could have hoped for in terms of just working for us and being cooperative and thinking about ways that we can approach the market. But we'll continue to have more of those conversations as we go into this next season, so we can really come with a clear plan on how we can operate the program for the long term. And that's what I have. Happy to take questions if those are something that are supported on this venue.
Mr. Conger, what we're going to do is wait until all the presentations have been made. We have one more on the library and then the manager's report, and there'll be an opportunity for public comment. And in terms of questions, we'll just wait and see how the public comments go.
Great. Thank you.
If you can just hang on then for a bit, that'll be fine. And so the next presentation will be on the new library. And then, as I just mentioned, public comments will come at the end of all presentations.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Zabriskie, council members. Thank you for having me here tonight. For those of you I have not yet had the opportunity to meet, my name is April Cole. I am the executive director of the Friends of the Truckee Library. We are the nonprofit advocacy group working to build a new library for our community here in Truckee. Over the next 15 minutes, I'll share our accomplishments since the last time I presented in March 2023. Can't believe it's been that long. And the exciting thing is at the end of this presentation, I will be unveiling the new schematic designs of our Truckee Regional Library. So let's go ahead. Oh, perfect. I plan to structure this presentation in 3 easy parts. First, I'll give a brief project description, outline our need for a new Truckee Library, go over our recent key achievements, and then I will discuss how community input has influenced the design of the Truckee Library and unveil the schematic designs. Supporting me tonight, I have, here we go, Derek Lebrec and Ted Felix from JK Architecture and Engineering. I also have Emmett Meehan from CCS Fundraising, so they can answer specific questions to the architecture and design, our fundraising plans, and of course, I'm here to talk about advocacy and community engagement. So let's start with the key thing that we're all here for tonight. Truckee needs a new library. Our current library was built in 1974 to accommodate a population of 2,000 people. Our current library service area is nearly 20,000, and over 15,000 residents have a Truckee library card. And the maximum occupancy is only 54. So, yeah. Key achievements. To fill this critical social infrastructure gap, the Friends of the Truckee Library, along with our partners, the Town of Truckee, Nevada County, and Placer County, have accomplished significant milestones to create powerful momentum on this project. One of the key and most significant milestones of 2024 was the formation of the Truckee Library Joint Powers Authority, uniting the Town of Truckee, Nevada County, and Placer County. I think this is a remarkable example. Reminds me a little bit of what you just said, Courtney, of different agencies coming together to accomplish a singular goal. When we work together, we can do more with shared resources and shared intel knowledge that we come together to do better things. Our next achievement is hiring our architecture team. Our architecture team consists of 2 firms, JK Architecture and Engineering and Group 4. JK Architecture and Engineering specialize in local mountain-specific design, and Group 4 specializes in library functions. Together, they're able to create a library that suits our community's unique building needs and also modern library design. Another key achievement is a fundraising feasibility study. Friends of the Truckee Library engaged with CCS Fundraising to conduct a feasibility study to understand our capacity to fundraise philanthropic dollars to support the funding of this library. Some key findings, which you'll note here. Friends of the Truckee Library is well respected. There is untapped donor potential. The case for the library is well supported. There's a clear path to raise $7 to $12 million. There's broad support for libraries generally, and transformational early gifts will be critical to this campaign. And this is a key achievement which I'm personally most proud of, our advisory task force. Our advisory task force is a group comprised of over 20 organizations and individuals representing the diverse needs of our community. This task force and this group have come together to advise on the needs for our design and how the library will be used in different ways. This way, we're not just building a resource for some of our community, but for everybody. The next key achievement is identifying and securing our new site. I want to take just a moment to back it up a little bit. Our original site was possible, but it came with a lot of challenges: limited parking, relocation of infrastructure, and constraints on growth. With the input from our previously mentioned advisory task force, the library core partners, which is the town of Truckee, Nevada County, Placer County, Truckee, Donner, Rex, and Park District, we made the bold decision to explore a new site for the library, about 300 feet west of the original identified site. This new site allows us to eliminate obstacles which were identified in the original site and allows us a single phase construction, which we all agreed would be best to pursue a better location and not just stick with what we had before and really look to the future of what's best for Truckee and the library project. I really want to take a moment and thank the Truckee Library JPA, Truckee Donner Rex and Park District, Truckee Donner PUD, and the Truckee Sanitary District as they all came together to quickly secure this new and better site for our community. Another key achievement is a fundraising milestone. Friends of the Truckee Library raised over $500,000 in 2024 from local agency and foundations and private donors. Highlights include $150,000 from Truckee Tahoe Airport District, $50,000 each from Martis Camp Foundation, the Southwest Gas Foundation, and a $10,000 grant from the Tahoe Donner Giving Fund and the Reno Tahoe Open Foundation. This level of community support is a testament to the support and excitement around the project. And I want to take just a moment to touch on that, the excitement and support for this project. If you're here in this room because you support the new Truckee Library, can you stand for a moment, please? Thank you. I really appreciate all of your support. It's from people like you who come here, who show up, who are active and engaged, that have allowed us to achieve these significant milestones. So speaking of community, I want to give you just a brief engagement overview of the work that we've done this past summer. We conducted 2 rounds of community input. Between those 2 rounds, we received nearly 4,000 respondents, both in person and online. Round 1, which you see here, I recognize that these are small images, but I really wanted to capture the excitement that people have for the different ways our library will serve our community. Here, you'll see the first thing that people are excited to use for a library: books for everyone. We talk a lot about how libraries are more than books, and they are. But people, our community, are excited to have a space with more books. Arts and culture. I want to touch on this for just a moment because Group 4 Architecture specializes in library design, and they conduct surveys like this for most of their communities. We are one of the only communities who had arts and culture in the top 3. We are a unique community. This is really important, and that has been taken into account in the design of this library. Other items: gaming and virtual reality, creating and making children's programming and play. Our library will be used for many, many things, and our community is excited about it. Round 2 community input results focused on what the library will look like and feel like. Talking about design, what style do we like, what exterior designs are important for the look of how a Truckee library should be. What comes next is translating those little bubbles that you saw with priorities and creating a library. Each of these lines here is where we indicate that we took community input and put it into the design of the library. You see this floor plan here. That is a reflection of what the Truckee community said that they wanted in their library. This is another way in which we can feature it. In every room, we have been thoughtful in the design to bring in how Truckee will use the space and what's important to us. So with that, I'm really excited to share that this is a library that is designed for the Truckee community with input from the Truckee community. So now, without further ado, here is your new Truckee library. Woo! This is a view from the front entrance. That bottom area there is essentially Brockway Road. Another view of the front entrance. The key here was big windows bringing in light to showcase how we go all the way through to the back. This is the back view from Legacy Trail. Those windows get larger in the back, really bringing in the beauty of Truckee Regional Park, the beauty of Truckee in general. So this library can celebrate not just what we're going to do inside the library, but the place in which it is. Another view from Legacy Trail. This corner view over here is of the community space, a community space built to accommodate up to 300 people with a separate entrance on the side so that we can utilize the library and you can utilize the community space at separate times if desired. And then the outside view of the children's area, an outside program and play area, really integrating into Truckee Regional Park with that programming and play. An interior view of the lobby, separate spaces to study, a beautiful big space for the kids that they can engage in. In the back is a create and make space and also separate space dedicated for our teens. I don't know about you guys, but I have 2 teenagers and the idea of having a place where they can ride their B-cycle bike too, but their bike on the Legacy Trail to be able to access this free right after school. And it's safe, it's welcoming, and it's something that we do not have in our community, and this is why I'm so passionate about working for it. And then our children's area. Our current children's area is, well, this is 4 times the size of our current children's area. We need more space. Truckee is growing. Our local families are growing, and we need a space where our children can support literacy initiatives, program, play, and this will be the space for them. And with that, I'd love to open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, April. I think we'll have the town manager's report, if you just stay available
You
for
said that.
public comments, and then I think we will allow a certain number of questions from council. So we'll do the town manager's report, and then we'll come back to questions. And I think we'll do B cycle separately for any public comments. Go ahead.
That sounds great. And thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's great to have a number of people in the room tonight and start off the new year with a full audience. So thanks for being here. A little something different tonight, as we've had a little different meeting. We've had a great performance, heard some really thoughtful words and great action from the Councilmember Henderson with the wildfires. Really wanting to reflect on the new year. It's our first meeting, where we've been last year and where we're headed in the year to come as an organization and how we hope to work with the community on behalf of Truckee. And I always kind of do this as a tradition. I think many people do at the end of the year and the start of a new year. But I think of every January as the start of a new book that we're writing of the story of our community. We've got 12 chapters and 365 pages of a book that we can write together to tell our story. And so when I stop and think and reflect back on that, we've heard a lot about challenges in the community, frustrations in the community, and really we're here to face them with the community, to address them with the community, and do what's in the best interest of the community based on what we're hearing. The fires are a good reflection on that. It's human spirit, and it's the essence of humanity that we come together and we work together and really solve problems together. So for 2025, the town staff, we are committed to looking forward. We're going to look inward at our services and how we can improve those for the community. But we need the community to show up in a really positive and productive way to have meaningful conversations and work with us and help us understand what those challenges are so we can fulfill that commitment to continue to improve the services we're providing and provide the best quality of life for our residents, our visitors, those that are here enjoying Truckee. So just thought it was a good time to kind of sit back and reflect and look at where we're going as an organization for this year to come and the story that we hope to narrate with the community together for 2025. So in a year from now, when we're looking back on 2025, we can hopefully have a lot of optimism and a lot of excitement about what we've accomplished together, working together, and really productively collaborating in conversation together on behalf of the community. And we are already having a great start to that. And congratulations to Councilmember Henderson on her appointment with the Rodell Fellowship. We issued a press release this week on that. It's really a very prestigious nomination that she had. This is typically something that goes to senators, state assembly members, mayors, county supervisors. There's a former vice president that has gone through this program. It's all about leadership, sharing opportunities, sharing what other communities have done, and really learning and engaging in those conversations at a broader level. So Truckee has a seat at that table. Councilmember Henderson will be representing us and other mountain, small rural communities. So it's a great opportunity for the council member, but also for Truckee. So congratulations on that. We're excited to hear what you're learning from that as you progress through that. And that's all of my report tonight.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with any public comments. Are there any public comments on B-Cycle? Okay, I don't see any indication of that, so let's jump to the library. Do we have any public comments on the presentation on the new Truckee Library? Please approach the podium. You have 3 minutes. State your name first. Can you push the button?
Yeah.
My name is Kevin Barkis. I'm here on behalf of the community to provide accountability to make sure that we feel represented in this room. My first question would be, when do you guys discuss these events or these, opportunities that are brought to the table? Because it's difficult for me to provide complete context to something that, I have no access to. So, I have questions, obviously, but to be involved in a group discussion, it has to be transparent. And I'm wondering, what is the, clearance of transparency that I have to be part of these discussions? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll have someone follow up with you to better understand your concerns. Sure.
Kevin, Kelly is our clerk over here. She'll connect with you and get your contact, and then we can follow up with a conversation. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other people approaching the podium for comment on the new public library, council's welcome to ask any questions on any of the presentations.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say, April, thank you so much for your leadership. And I know it really does take a very big community. I'm so grateful to you all for being here. I think this council has really stood behind this library with resources from staff, with funding, and this would not be what it is. We would not see what's before us today if it wasn't for all of you and for many others who also aren't in this room. So I am just so grateful for everything that you're doing for our community. Truly, this is so exciting. I don't know anyone who hasn't been excited about this. So thank you to everyone. And on B-Cycle, we also, we don't always take the time to celebrate our wins, right? We get stuck in the problems. We all have lives. We have busy schedules. We have kid pickups from school and elderly parents and other things we're all dealing with. And sometimes we forget to celebrate the wins. And I think seeing some of that ridership on B-Cycle, that's a win to me. So thank you.
Any questions or comments from this side of the dais?
Yes. Ditto to what Councilmember Henderson said. I did have a question for Brian, if you or Alfred, and it's, we heard that the B-Cycle program is not financially sustainable, just kind of, and I think I heard Brian say it's not that far off. Do we have an idea of what kind of financial missing piece we're talking about on that?
They're going through some of their financials right now. They do right now with bicycle transit systems that took over. They do some of their accounting differently than Trek did, such as depreciation of value on the equipment and things like that. So they are working through some of those numbers. So I don't have those right now. It is something that we've been kind of tracking or conversationally over the life of the program to try to get our heads wrapped around it, at least on my end. and now Brian's with a different organization or agency. He's trying to work backwards through their accounting practices to see kind of how they account for things. But it is probably between the $50,000 to $100,000 range. I know that's a huge range, but to give you some order of magnitude.
Thank you. Appreciate that and understand. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Klostad?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Ditto to what Councilmember Henderson said. I'm so impressed with all that's happened on the library, and had the pleasure of participating in some of the design workshops. I'm just curious about that $7 to $12 million range. First question on that is, how long do you think it will take to raise that money, and what makes the difference between getting from 7 million to 12 million?
Very, very good question. So we'll start with the range and what makes a difference. Timeline. Let's start with timeline. We are looking for a 3 to possibly 5-year campaign. We're pushing fairly aggressively for 3, looking at the momentum of the campaign. Momentum is a big key. Momentum, and what I mentioned, I think I put over here, let me see if I can go right back. Early transformational gifts is going to be a very, very big key.
Saw that.
Yeah, and so what that means is people, philanthropic donors, giving early and big to the campaign. What we have done, and Emmett, you are more than welcome to come up here. Actually, I'd love to welcome Emmett up here. As far as identifying our path, I want to be sensitive to what I share, understanding that we are going through this activation stage of our campaign. But Emmett, can you speak specifically to what creates that range and how we get closer to that higher number as opposed to lower?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm happy to speak to this. So I work with a firm called CCS Fundraising, and we conducted a feasibility study, as you know. What makes up the results of that study? There's a handful of things. So we'll talk to people. We'll have interviews with donors, with community members, with leaders, just kind of neighbors, anyone who kind of could be affected by the library or has a stake. We'll do a e-survey of a bigger swath of folks, just to reach a broader audience. And there's a data and analytics component as well. And so when we narrow down to a number like 7 to 12 million, what that says is people, or this community can support the high end of that. So there is capacity in this community to get to a number like 12 million. The difference is whether or not people are going to. And so when we think about a campaign of this scale, it's a big one, right? We know it's not a bake sale. And so when we think about a campaign of this scale, we think about it in terms of stretch gifts. So it's a diverse community. A stretch gift is going to mean something very different to everybody that is involved. But if everybody thinks about stretching and thinks about stepping up to the best of their ability, whatever that is, then we'll be successful. There's capacity to get to a number like 12 million or even more, depending on who else sort of enters the picture that we may not have been able to talk to during the specific time of the feasibility study. We have a very, very clear path to 7 million. We'd say that that's an easy sort of minimum, like a ground floor, but definitely capacity for 12 million if the community decides that it's what they want to prioritize philanthropically.
Thank you. So that's just donations. That's not necessarily taking into consideration potential grants or other contributions, correct?
Correct. That's philanthropic dollars specifically. And I will say there's an interdependency between grants and philanthropic dollars. So Friends of Truckee Library is focusing, we've invested with CCS Fundraising to really get into the details of how to run an effective campaign, because we understand that when we engage in a campaign and start to bring in larger donations, that the opportunities for grants become more available. And what I mean by that is the further along your project is, so the closer it is to breaking ground or potentially breaking ground, the availability for grants, the availability for state and federal funding opens up, because our risk-averse foundations look to go at the back end. So we are really looking our timeline to start as soon as possible and engaging that to support bringing in what I would call a very complex jigsaw puzzle of funding opportunities. I think you see a lot of different people in this room. You see a lot of different people on the advisory task force. You see, I didn't mention our endorsements. And the reason for that is that we're looking very, very broadly, and we will look at very small opportunities for grants, and we will look at very big opportunities for grants, and we'll look at earmarks and other types of funding, all very carefully, strategically engaged, all about the same timeline, quite frankly.
Great.
Yeah.
That's very helpful, April. And
Absolutely.
thank you, Emmett. I appreciate that greater detail.
And I would love to mention also that it is an all-electric building design, just in case you guys wanted to know. Okay, bye.
Thank you very much, April. And I echo the accolades and comments of my colleagues up here on the dais. And I want everyone who's here right now to appreciate how much we up here appreciate seeing people coming out in person at a town council meeting to express your support for a particular project. It really makes us feel proud of our community, of the town of Truckee. And so thank you all. And that concludes our presentations. And now we'll move on to the consent calendar. And we have, what do we have? 9 items on the consent calendar. Do I need to go through each one? Just
Yes,
briefly?
please read
Okay.
each one.
Yeah. Okay, 6.1 is simply the minutes of our last meeting. 6.2 is a claim for damages against the town. 6.3, California Department of Transportation Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program application for an active transportation plan. 6.4 is the contract award for Reimagine Bridge Street to Acumen Engineering. 6.5, the update to the town's teleconference policies and procedures. 6.6, the notice of completion of the 2024 paving and drainage project. 6.7 is going to be ratification of the resolution regarding the Measure E sales tax. And then 6.8 is acceptance of the 2024 Truckee Transit Development Plan. Finally, 6.9 is adoption of the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. Does anyone on the council want to pull any of the consent items? Anyone on staff want to pull an item?
No, Mayor.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to ask for us to pull an item? Okay, seeing no one from the public asking us to pull an item, do I have a motion for approval of the consent?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Good, second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Consent calendar passes. Next on the agenda is our single discussion item. This is a review of the 2025 Council Town Committee designations. Oh, and wait, seven. We have 2. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is the committee designations and regarding council committee appointments. And then we'll get to the benefits, health benefits. Okay, Kelly?
Thank you, Mayor. Just keep this short and sweet. We've come to this time of year where we review our committee designations. So I have up here a list of all the committees. The ones in blue strike through, we're recommending having them removed from this list. The ones in red font are ones that are the mayor is designated as the council designator. And so really there's no major changes, but we thought we'd give you a chance to review if you wanted to change any seats, discuss switching anything up. So I will leave that open for you guys to discuss.
Okay, thank you. There might be some requests, but first of all, are there any questions? All right. And there's no public comment on that designations? Does not appear to be any. Okay. So discussion, how does everyone feel about sticking with the designations? Does anyone want to speak up, or should I call on someone? David?
Perfectly happy where I am and happy with my designation. Thank you.
Okay.
No questions or other comments.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Councilmember Romack.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate this. I am happy with my designations. I did want to bring up one of interest, and that is the Chamber of Commerce liaison. I know Councilmember Henderson, you've served as the delegate, and I've kind of been the alternate. I'd be interested in stepping up into the main role and reading through it, attending more of the Chamber of Commerce meetings, but also open to staying the alternate. But I wanted to put that out there. I think I've appreciated learning more about the Chamber of Commerce over the last year, and it's a great opportunity to get more involved with the business community and provide different perspectives from council members. So that would just be one of interest to me.
So, Councilmember Henderson, sure.
Thank you. Yes, I'm generally happy with mine. I think a question I might have, can both the designated and the alternate go to meetings? There's no reason we can't, right?
I suppose there's no reason you can. I know that historically we haven't done that, but that
Right.
doesn't mean we couldn't change. I do think that perhaps we'd have to be cognizant. So typically there would be a town update.
Right.
Staff goes and provides that. The council members have an opportunity to weigh in on that. And so we just want to be careful we're not consuming their meeting time with updates from council. We'd have to talk to them about capacity to have two, and it's not remote anymore. So I know it's a fairly tight room.
And for committees or other assignments where the council has two representatives, having an alternate go as well, I mean, there are three council members, which makes it a council meeting for Brown Act purposes. So you wouldn't be able to do that.
But there wouldn't be. We're just talking about a designated and an alternate and then a staff person.
If it's only that context, then yes.
Yes, thank you. Very good clarification. So let's talk about it, because I do kind of want to stay with the chamber, but maybe you're the designee and I'm the alternate, if we can both go to meetings, and I don't know if we can fully answer that without Jessica or someone from the chamber here tonight. And then I'm going to add on to yours in addition. The other one that I know I expressed interest in last year was LAFCO. Mayor Zabriskie, I know that you've been on that one for a few years, and I don't know if you have any thoughts about that one or would be willing to, I don't know. That's the other one that I'm really interested in. And I think it's similar, like the opportunity to learn something new and different. So I could also see, if you wanted to go on to chamber, I think I've only been on that one for a year. Is that right? Or was it 2 years? I can't remember, honestly. These things fly by. I've learned a ton interacting with the chamber. They're a lovely group of folks. I'd love to keep interacting. But if I could step up onto LAFCO and then maybe I could step down to alternate on chamber, I'd be really happy with that.
So this would be a three-way, not a bank shot.
This is like negotiation right here, right?
Yeah. No, I'd like the idea of the LAFCO members being exposed to someone new from the town council. I think that would be good in and of itself, and then they get the bonus of having you instead of me.
Well, they'll decide if that's a bonus or not, but
Well, maybe so, I guess. You're
so
right.
why don't I propose that if Mayor Zabriskie is comfortable, I'll take on LAFCO, and if you're comfortable with it, I will move. If everyone else is okay with it, I will move to alternate on chamber. And I would love if we can just follow up with them. If I could
we will
still
do that.
go, that would be great. Okay. And if not, maybe I can
We can.
chat with you. We can ping each other. Okay.
Is everybody fine with this? Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was such easy compromise.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yeah. Now, Councilmember Klostad, is there anything you'd like to change in addition?
No, I'm comfortable with mine. I would just like to check in with you and make sure that you are going to be comfortable with your 10 remaining designations.
Well, I just took
we'll
one.
Find out. Yeah.
It was 11.
Okay. Well, the Airport Land Use Commission, I have to admit, hasn't met since I joined. So now you know. That's
No,
why I never report on it. Okay, so Kelly, can we make those 2 changes? Or
Yes, sir.
Is it 3? 3 changes.
It'll be 3 changes, so we'll replace, Councilmember Romack will now be the designee for the chamber with Councilmember Henderson as the alternative, and Councilmember Henderson will serve as the LAFCO representative. And so we'll make those 3 adjustments.
That's great.
If I could just make a request to you, Mayor Zabriskie, offline, if we could just
Yes.
have coffee and you could download on LAFCO for me to help me ramp up, that would be great.
I do just
Great
want
idea.
to point out, not to suggest that you should make changes, and you really can't because these aren't Brown Act activities, but there was a second attachment with the ad hoc assignments. So these are additional, just so everybody's aware and the community's aware, additional commitments that you all have. And we have removed the hospital committee. That was in response to the general plan when they were still working through that. The Reach Code Committee has sunsetted at this point, and the outdoor recreation. So we removed those. We included the downtown pedestrian crossing, but just to kind of have a comprehensive list of what you all are working on.
Do we anticipate any other ad hocs over the next 12 months?
My crystal ball is saying potentially one, but I'm not sure yet. So maybe by the time we get to our retreat discussion, I'll have a better understanding of that.
I can't remember. Do we have the Homeless Advisory Committee on there?
I think it's on the other attachment, Kelly, because that was a formal designation that was made. So it's on,
Thank
second
you.
from the bottom.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, that concludes that item. Now we'll move on to the last item on discussion, that's 7.2, and concerning health benefits for council.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Today we are here to talk about the potential of extending health care and other benefits to the town council. So this has been and I am Bonnie Thompson Harden. I'm the HR manager here at the town of Truckee. So this has been an ongoing conversation for this council. It started back in October of 2020 when council deliberated about the possibility of extending health care. It was also further discussed during the budget process for fiscal year 21-22. You once again deliberated at a meeting in November of 2021 and decided not to move forward at that time. And then just last month, we held a workshop here on December 12th to talk through the current state of health benefits provided at the town, and also to provide some potential ways for council, if they wanted to extend that benefit, to think through how both the town and the elected official might pay for some of those benefits, just to start brainstorming ways that that could happen. So council's compensation is set through our municipal code. Under California Government Code, insurance benefits are not considered compensation. And so you're allowed to discuss and make this decision here today if you do want to extend insurance benefits. However, the state legislature has set some guidelines for public agencies that we need to consider today. So one is that the benefits that you can consider have to be available to large numbers of employees. And in addition, the town contribution to those benefits can be no greater than the most generous package provided to any category of non-safety employees. So at the December 12th meeting, we notified the council that we would need to do some additional research to determine whether one of the options that had been suggested, which was full coverage for health, dental, and vision benefits, was something council could consider. And after further research and looking at this California Government Code, we did determine that because full coverage is just provided to our department heads, who have individual employment contracts with the town, it doesn't actually meet the requirement for a large number of employees. So that option is not available to the council. What is available is to tie those contribution packages to one of the 3 MOUs that we have here at the town. So we have 3 recognized employee bargaining groups, our mid-managers employee group, our Truckee General Employee Membership Association, and the Truckee Police Officers Association. So either of those, or any of those, would be options for you to tie, or that would be the amount of the town contribution. And the most generous of those is the mid-managers employee group benefit package, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail. But at that workshop, council also requested some additional information. So we had provided information that we had readily available about our local special districts. Council asked us to come back with more detailed information about the full benefit packages, including health, dental, vision, life insurance, other benefits provided to both our local special districts, as well as our comparator agencies. So what is a comparator agency for the public? This is an agency that we have 12 of them that we compare ourselves to during a compensation and classification study. So that's where we're double checking that our compensation and our benefit package is in line or at market with other agencies that have similar organizational types and structures, similar staff and operational budgets, similar populations with similar services in the communities. There have historically been in our geographic area and labor market, but we've also broadened that in our last Comp and Class study to try and capture similar costs of living in other jurisdictions and come up with a statistically similar group of organizations that can help us gauge if we're in the right market. So I reached out to those comparator agencies to gather information about their benefit packages as well. So the big chart of all of those, detailed chart of all those benefits is in the staff report, but I wanted to provide kind of a high level summary of the differences, because what was really striking to me was that there was significant differences in not necessarily the benefits that were provided, but how the agencies were paying a contribution towards those costs. So what this chart shows is that our local special districts, in large part, are able to provide 100% single-family coverage, or 53% of them provide 100% family coverage for health insurance. So one of the reasons for that is that that's something that they're able to offer to their own employee groups. Now, we compare ourselves to comparator agencies because local special districts have different ratepayer mechanism. So if they need to, they're able to raise their rates. We don't have the ability to do that here at the town. And so that's one reason in Common Class studies we compare ourselves to cities and towns. What's fascinating to me is that when we look at the comparator agencies, kind of the methodology that we're proposing as an option here today, tying it to one of the bargaining group packages, is also what our comparator agencies are doing. So in large part, 67% of them have a similar methodology. So they may be paying a little bit more or a little bit less than we would have here at the town, but the same structure is the same. So what is a fixed rate? So that's what I'm calling it, because that's what we call it here at the town. But what it is really the set amount that the town has agreed to contribute to a health insurance premium. That may be more or less than the actual cost of the premium, and ours is tiered. So we provide a certain amount for employee-only coverage. We pay a little bit more for employee plus one. We pay a little bit more for employee plus two, which is a family plan. So if you have 2 or more, then it's just considered family. So they have a similar structure. The numbers may be slightly different, but the structure is the same. And of the 27 agencies in both our local area as well as our comparator agencies, 23 out of 27 did provide access to health insurance. So this is a similar summary for dental and vision insurance. 2 of those agencies do not provide dental and vision insurance to council members. For local special districts, the predominant methodology is to provide 100% family coverage for both dental and vision. Once again, when we look at the comparator agencies, we do have some agencies that are providing 100% family coverage. We do have a few that are requiring the elected official to pay for the full cost of the coverage. They have access to it, but they pay for the full cost themselves. And then once again, the largest proportion is some kind of tiered compensation approach where the agency pays a little bit more for 2-party or 3-party coverage, but the council member could potentially be paying the difference. So what are the full scope of benefits that are offered to employees here at the town, and the opportunities for council to discuss what benefits they might like to extend today? So I've grouped these kind of by benefits that have some kind of town or elected official contribution if you were to extend them. So health, dental, and vision insurance would have a town contribution, and for some of the 2-party and 3-party plans, the elected official might have to contribute to part of that as well. We also offer group life insurance to every employee here at the town who works 30 hours or more. It's their annual salary up to $50,000. A similar plan could be offered to town council members. The cost of that plan is $7.50 a month for individual town employees and also for council members. We also have a slew of benefits that would actually have no cost to the town outside of the staff time needed to set council members up for these benefits and ongoing payroll contributions. So these are benefits that council could elect voluntarily to take part of the stipend that you receive and put it into some kind of different savings account that might have tax advantages for you. So council could elect a voluntary life insurance policy. This is something that town employees can pick. It's a certain amount based on your age and the amount of coverage that you want. There's also 457 deferred compensation accounts, which is essentially the government version of a 401k, where you could choose to defer a portion of your monthly stipend into a deferred compensation account. It does lower your gross income if you pick a traditional one. We have an option for both a Roth and a traditional account through 2 different vendors. And then it's money that can help you in retirement once you go to retire. We also have flexible spending accounts for both health and dependent care. So once again, these are amounts that you would elect. And then a per paycheck amount would come out of your paycheck for an entire year. And during that year, you have the ability to utilize those funds to pay for health and or dependent care services. There's also several supplemental benefit plans through AFLAC for things like cancer, hospital stays, accident plans, that once again, the council member would elect the type of coverage, the type of plan that they want, and how many people are insured, and that would come out of your stipend. All of the plans I mentioned so far, including health, dental, and vision, are ones where council members could either choose to opt into or choose to decline that benefit. This last one, a retirement health savings plan, would require all council members to participate. The way the plans are structured, we would have to create a plan for council members, and every member would have to defer some portion of their stipend into this account. And that's why it's right now only offered to department heads and mid-managers, because they're small enough groups that we could get consensus. So this is one where all council members would, if that was the direction to move forward, would have to commit to participating. So based on the conversation at the December 12th workshop, I'm bringing forward today the mid-management employees group benefit package for your information. Because this seemed a likely option that council might choose to tie if they decide to extend health, dental, and vision insurance. So what we're looking at here, it's complicated, but if you look at the monthly premium column, this is the amount that CalPERS or our dental and vision providers is charging the town. The town contribution 2020-25 monthly, that's what we call the fixed rate. That's how much the town has agreed to contribute towards those benefits according to the mid-manager's MOU. And if you look at it, you'll see that the amount is the same for the gold 3-party and the platinum 3-party. So that's the max amount the town will pay. What happens then is the employee is responsible for any cost of the plan over what the town contributes. So you can see the more expensive plan obviously results in a larger employee contribution amount per month and per year. And if a council member were to choose the 2-party or 3-party plan, it is above the amount of your monthly stipend, so we would have to work through how we would collect that money from you. And then because the town is budgets on a 5-year cycle, I've tied this to a 4-year term for council members, but we typically budget a 10-year annual or 10-year increase. A 10% increase, there we go, every year. So what we've done here is tried to look at the maximum financial exposure. So assuming, although it seems unlikely, but in the future, all 5 council members could select 3-party coverage. So that's what these numbers are here for the town cost for 5 families. That's the maximum financial exposure for 1 year. And then the 4-year term does have a 10% increase built in for each year to capture 4 years worth of escalating costs. So if council does decide to elect coverage for health, dental, and/or vision, today, what we would do is we'd have you suggest that you adopt Resolution 2025-07. So this is drafted by CalPERS. This meets their regulations to include council members in PEMPCA and opt them into the CalPERS health plan. We drafted our own resolution to capture both what benefits might be extended as well as the way they would happen through payroll deductions and tying it to the resolution has the mid-managers group. It seemed like a likely one. And we were trying to provide some options for council to move forward today if that was the direction the council wanted to go. And then if council adopts those resolutions, interested council members would need to meet with myself or with Christine, hopefully by February 3rd, to enroll in any of those coverages. And the reason for that is because we take out deductions for both the town and the employee the month before the coverage is effective. So that first deduction would be effective on the February 7th payroll pay date. So we'd need to get those into payroll in a timely manner. And then benefits would be effective March 1 of 2025. So this is a weird one because I'm not providing a recommendation. I'm kind of offering it up for your discussion, but we provided a couple of directions that you might choose from. So one is to extend health, dental, and vision insurance. We did provide the CalPERS resolution to do so. We also provided a town resolution capturing adding medical, dental, and vision insurance benefits effective March 1st. And if council moves forward with approving both of those, we'd also ask you to approve a budget amendment. So we do have $30,000 already budgeted for this purpose in the fiscal year 24-25 operating budget. So it would be an additional $40,997 for health, dental, and vision insurance for this year. And then moving forward, the full $170,000 if which is the cost of 1 year of the maximum financial exposure cost for 1 year of all 3 of those benefits would be factored into next year's operating budget. Another direction that council could go is to extend health, dental, and vision and add additional access to any of the town benefits. And so if that's the direction, we would also ask you to approve the CalPERS resolution so that we could get that process moving. But you could direct staff to bring back a revised resolution capturing the scope of the benefits that you're interested in extending and bring back a revised budget amendment at the next meeting. And lastly, if council decides not to extend benefits today, there's of course no action necessary on your part. So
just to follow up, there's a lot of different options here. We did the best with what we thought we heard from the workshop to give you those options. Bonnie has a number of slides prepared if you want to go through them on the different benefit levels. This was what we took from the workshop, so why we kind of honed in on this one. But if you wanted to talk about a different level, she has that information that she can pull up.
And with that, I will open it up to questions.
Would anybody like to start, or should I just go ahead and call on someone? Let's start down with Lindsay.
Sure. Thank you very much. Appreciated all that info. And a lot of questions were answered in advance, so I appreciate that. I did just take a few notes. You listed some of the potential additional benefits that would come at no cost to the town, including, the FSA dependent care. If could council elect to do some of those and not have any other benefits, or would there have to be a medical account or something in order to do some of those other benefits that you talked about?
Council could elect to pick any of those, then it's not tied to providing it only if you choose health, dental, or vision insurance.
Okay, thank you. And on the retirement health savings, you mentioned all have to participate. Would all have to participate at the same level, or it would just be everyone is opting in and people could opt in at different levels? Just curious.
That's a good question. There's not any flexibility for that one. So it'd all be like a 1% of your pay or $20 or whatever it is. It'd have to be the same amount.
Okay. And then for some of these, like you mentioned, the 457, obviously, and once a term was up and if somebody was not reelected, what happens to that then, since they wouldn't be able to be paying in if they were no longer employed by the town, or however it's considered?
Another great question. So that money stays in the account. It's your money. And what happens is once you leave your term of office, we would let the Nationwide or CalPERS know that you're no longer employed. So you can withdraw that money with a penalty before your retirement age, or it can sit in that account and invest and grow until you're eligible to take payments without a penalty at 57. I think 57.
Great. Thank you. That's it for now.
Councilmember Klostad.
Yeah, I just have one question. We did receive a public comment that expressed some concern about this being a conflict of interest to vote this benefit for ourselves. Andy, you provided a really detailed response. Would you be willing to share some of that information with us?
Sure, happy to. So there are a series of laws, state laws, in the government code that allow for the provision of health and welfare benefits to public officials and employees. And among those laws are requirements that, first of all, there's one law in that series that specifically says that elected officials, such as yourselves, are allowed to participate in this. And then there are other laws in that series that say that it has to be the council that decides when and whether and under what conditions to extend health and welfare benefits to either yourselves or to town employees. So although I understand the concern about there being a conflict of interest, the law says that if anyone is going to extend health and welfare benefits to you, it's you. There is nobody else who can do it. And there's another law in that series that says the council not only gets to decide whether to, but the council gets to decide how much of the benefits will be paid for by the town. So you have specific statutory authority that says that council members can participate. You've got statutory direction that only you can make that decision. And you've got statutory direction that says you get to decide how much, if anything, the town is going to pay toward your benefits. In addition to that, the Political Reform Act, which is where all of California's conflict of interest rules are, says that income from a government source, including benefits, is not considered to be income for purposes of determining whether you have a conflict of interest. So you just don't have a conflict per se under the law because this doesn't count as income. And then finally, some people think of what they think of as conflicts are actually something called Government Code Section 1090 violations. And that says that you can't be financially interested in a contract that the town makes. But in that series of laws that says that you're allowed to participate, it says, hey, notwithstanding any laws about not being able to be interested in a contract, you can still participate in these benefits. So the legislature has made it really clear in about 4 different ways that you're allowed to get health benefits if you want to. Only you can decide whether you're going to award them to yourselves and your successors. Only you get to decide how much is going to be paid, and it's not a conflict. And I will also point out that one public comment we received, I believe from Mr. Minocchio, eloquently written, suggested that perhaps council members could wait and not take these benefits yourselves, but instead wait and have your successors do that. And there's a similar idea in the government code that says that if you're going to increase your salaries, that doesn't take effect until later. It doesn't take effect until a new council term. But again, this is not considered a salary. So even that requirement doesn't apply. And in thinking about this, I would point out that the way that courts look at statutes is they say that if a requirement is present in one place, but not in another, the courts would say, well, that means the legislature knows how to have that requirement in the law if they want to. And the fact that it's not in some other place means the legislature decided not to. So there's nothing that requires you to wait. There's nothing that requires you to, if you decide to award this, to then not take the benefits yourselves and only have your successors do it. There's nothing that says that this can't take effect until a new council term. There is literally no way for anybody other than the council to make this decision. It has to be you, if it's going to be anybody. And you're on clear legal ground here. So this is an interesting policy decision for you. It raises interesting policy questions and issues, but it's not a legal issue. If done correctly, this is very clearly allowed under state law.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. So just to confirm, we're budgeting for the maximum exposure, as we always budget conservatively, whether it's a capital improvement project or something else. And so if, for example, only 2 council members or 3 members took the benefit, that the total cost that we saw in the report would actually be less. We're budgeting conservatively and cautiously, as we always do. Yes?
That's correct.
Thank you. Historically, have we always seen a 10% year-over-year increase from CalPERS and our dental and vision providers? What's, the past 3 to 5 years, has it been 10% year-over-year typically?
For CalPERS, it has been in the double digits recently, but this year it was very close to 10%. Okay. CalPERS has recently gone out to bid for a new provider that started on January 1st, so we are now getting health insurance through Blue Shield. And the reason they did that is because they were very concerned with that continuing double-digit increases, recognizing that it wasn't sustainable for employees or memberships or agencies. So they have some pretty rigid requirements built into the new bill or contract they have with Blue Shield. And if Blue Shield doesn't meet those metrics, they're on the hook for paying the cost of that. So hopefully this is a mechanism to help control those kind of ongoing costs. But CalPERS doesn't go out to bid every year, so it's, they're trying to manage the contract term for several years. For dental and vision insurance, we've actually had very stable rates because we do have the ability to go out to bid if the annual renewal comes in too high. So we have not seen anywhere near a 10% increase for dental or vision insurance.
Thank you. And can you confirm how many public comments we received written in advance? I just want to make sure. I read 23 as of late this afternoon, of which 5 were opposed and 18 were in support. Can you just confirm that sounds like what you saw as well?
If you want to go on to your next question, we'll go through and tally them up. I think a couple came in while we were in here. So.
Okay, thank you. And so last question, I just want to make sure I'm reading the staff report correctly. I know we looked at our comparator agencies and our local agencies, and we have several, I'm kind of looking at some of the local ones that offer health, dental, and vision, many at 100% for their electeds or families or some amount of that. Nevada City, North Tahoe Fire Protection District, North Tahoe PUD, Tahoe City PUD, Tahoe Forest Hospital District, Tahoe Truckee Unified School District, Town of Mammoth Lakes, Truckee Donner PUD, and Truckee Sanitary District all offer health, dental, and vision benefits. Yes, I'm reading the tables correctly at the end of the staff report.
Just one moment. Yes, if there is information in the column for health, dental, or vision that that they offer that coverage, and the information that we know, it is blank if they do not offer that coverage.
Thank you.
I did say not available if we were unsure whether they offered the benefit or not.
Perfect. Thank you. Those are all of my questions, Mayor Zabriskie.
Okay. Councilmember Pallavi.
Yeah, thank you. Just 2 quick ones. When Councilmember Henderson, I'm just looking for a vocabulary clarification. CalPERS is health benefits, but it's also retirement, right? And I just want to make sure I'm not confusing the two. We're CalPERS in this sense. We're just talking about health benefits at whatever the growth rate is, or whatever.
Correct. So there's the CalPERS retirement benefit, which is not currently extended to council members. Right. You're excluded under our contract with CalPERS. This would be just including you in CalPERS health benefits, but to add it, make it a little bit more shade of gray as well. Okay. For our 457 deferred compensation account, we have a account with Nationwide and one through CalPERS, which is a separate pool of money. It is not mixed into any of their health or their retirement savings, but it is also through CalPERS as well. But in this context, it makes sense to use CalPERS in the health context.
In the health context, thank you. I always get confused in these conversations, being the private business owner who does not have access to these things and no history. And then just to also clarify another vocabulary issue on that table, when you are writing 100% family, that is, those agencies are covering 100%. So that would be different than what the mid-management employee group benefit package is, for example, for a family of 3 where there's $109.14 monthly contribution. It's not 100% coverage, it's 100% of the financial responsibility of that coverage, correct?
That is an excellent clarification, yes.
Okay, so they're 100% financially being covered. There is no employee or any type of contribution under that detail.
Correct. And to reflect kind of what we offer here at the town in the comparator agencies, that's the fixed rate contribution amount. Same framework.
Got it. Because it's still a fixed rate. It's just a known fixed rate.
Correct.
Yeah. Understood. Okay. Yeah. No further questions. Thank you.
To follow back up, I'm showing 25 public comments, 17 in support and 5 not in support.
Say again.
Those numbers don't add up.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said 17 and 5?
17 in support and 5 not in support.
So
22.
22. I thought that's what I said, but 22.
Okay.
Sorry if I
Close.
misspoke.
You were close.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Bonnie, thank you. That was a very clear report, very progressed, very systematically. Thank you. So while employees have to work 30 hours a week to be eligible to participate, the state's requirement about capping council members' health benefits at the employee level, that doesn't apply to that minimum hourly requirement.
It does not.
Okay, so we could just work 5 hours a week and still qualify.
If you elect to extend it to yourselves, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was assuming that, yeah. And you've now seen the staff report from back in 2020, October 2020, where staff said if we provide health benefits to the council, a council member who has health insurance somewhere else could opt out of that plan, take the cash, if the plan so provided, of course, and then elect to take town coverage.
Thank you. I had not actually read that staff report. I didn't realize it had gone back to 2020. So, but yes.
Okay.
I think so. That was my first meeting here is in the town, and vaguely recall the conversation at the time. I started October 26th, and I think that was October 27th. So, okay. I think at the time, I think the point is yes, that could be a possibility. I don't think we would want to speculate if it would happen or not, but the option would be there. If you have coverage under another plan, you could opt out of that, take this coverage, and in some cases get a cash out from your current employer.
But it's important to note that it doesn't work the other way. The law will not allow you to decline coverage through the town and take cash instead.
Right. I saw that that's pretty clear in the current staff report. Okay, but so what I want to make sure I understand is this: if we gave coverage to the council, it would apply whether a council member had already had health benefits with an employer or not.
The option to participate would apply.
Yeah, and there's
yes,
no
it
way-
doesn't require you to take advantage of it, but you could.
Yeah, there's no way we could exclude council members who already have health insurance.
No.
Okay, thank you. And then there were several questions about what effect adoption of a health plan for council members would have on staffing levels and other projects. And essentially, if I understand correctly, the response was expenses are increasing faster than revenues over time. They're projected to increase. Was that taking Measure E into account or not?
Typically, we think of expenses as increasing because benefits increase so substantially, or we typically see that in other cost of, we all look at cost of construction. When we get all of our bids back, they're generally over. We didn't explicitly account for Measure E in terms of dollar value, partially because there's been at least a high-level commitment that goes to TART Connect, so it wasn't really offsetting other services, or the majority of that wouldn't have been.
So we were taking into account?
We were not.
Okay. Also mentioned there were no plans to reduce staffing levels if we were to adopt equivalent coverage for the council as the employees have.
No.
Okay, but we're projecting adding 1.5. At least that appeared in the staff reports supporting Measure E. There was expectation of adding staff for, I think it was public works, and then there was a half person or something for another entity. Is that correct?
My recollection in the conversations with Measure E was the majority of that funding going to provide the ongoing funding needed for TART Connect, and then some additional capacity left for discussion of council of whether that would be expanding the TART Connect service, and expanding could mean longer hours, more drivers, so shorter wait periods. There's a number of variables there. We talked about the need for probably additional staffing in emergency management, and this could be a funding source for that. So maybe that's what you're referring to. There's a number of staffing needs, and I think we alluded to a few of those based on the general language of the Measure E ballot language.
Okay, there was about 250,000 in operating increases that would include 1.5 staff, I believe. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think the one is the emergency management position that we were referring to, but I wouldn't say that you've approved that yet, or we've even really presented that. We were just high-level thinking of what that funding could be used to support.
Right. And so what effect would adoption of health benefits for the council at the maximum possible have on that projected addition of staff? Would we have to worry about reducing that anticipated increase in staff?
So there's always finite resources, and there's always more desire for, whether it's project staffing, you always are making choices. That's your role as policy decisions. So to some degree, yes, you are going to be making choices, whether that's between, typically we wouldn't align it to a capital project because that would be a one-time cost. This would be ongoing. It may delay choices for you as you get into budget cycle. It's hard to predict because we haven't gotten into the budget cycle at this point to weigh those choices.
Okay, we haven't. All right, thank you. And then in the public comments, unless they just came in during the meeting, I think most of us, all of us probably looked at them. A number of them had the same comments about diversity, about how health benefits could increase diversity on the council. And we look up here and we see 5 white people. We all own our own homes, all have families or had families. In many ways we have more common features than different features. And we can appreciate the need for diversity, but there didn't appear to be any documentation or evidence showing that health benefits would increase diversity. And comparing the agencies that have health benefits with those that don't, does anything stand out indicating that we can point to a difference in diversity depending on whether they have health benefits or not?
So I think you're looking for a factual source for us to point to and reference either way, and I don't think we have that. You can certainly use your comparator or special agency boards around here as kind of anecdotal evidence, but I don't have a document that I can point to you to that says this or that. There's the abstract that we highlighted.
Right.
We didn't pay for it to read the whole abstract, but that gets into a little bit more of the details on that and indicates that it is not an equity solution.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I pulled out the abstract and it said, actually, contrary to, in so many words, common belief, that representation of the working class is the same or worse in states that pay legislatures higher salaries. Now, that's not exactly the same as health benefits, but it is to the effect the more you pay, actually you get this reverse effect. It's the wealthier people who go to where the money is.
Yeah, we're not aware of any real studies in this that we could point you to either way.
Well, is that because we looked? Did staff look or?
We haven't done an extensive look either. The previous times that you've talked about this, and this has been a fairly short turnaround, so just to gather this, we haven't done an extensive look.
Okay. And then I had asked a pretty tough question about covered California. I realize it's complex. I spent some time with it. How do we figure out what the comparable policy is under covered California and what the premium would be for someone, particularly for people with lower incomes, which in this day and age could be $100,000.
So unfortunately, we don't have any experience with Covered California here because it's not a plan that we're allowed to consider. And so what I did provide was a link to the plan structure for the CalPERS Gold and Platinum plans. They're not going to be an exact replica of the Covered California plan, but that would be a starting point for trying to look for, is it an 80-20 plan? Is it a 90-10 plan? That's kind of a big picture way of kind of comparing plans, but we don't have any familiarity here at the town with the Covered California ones.
Okay, because one of the things I'm trying to understand, maybe get to, is if we're trying to attract people with lower incomes as candidates, at least for office, with Covered California providing greater subsidies for lower income, what is the real difference between what our town would offer, what our town plan would offer, and what Covered California would offer? I mean, is there really a difference?
I can answer that.
Sure.
And I also don't necessarily think it's relevant to the conversation because we're not here to compare plans. We're talking about sort of the policy in front of us, but the Covered California plan is based on income level. So I don't know quite what you're trying to get at or what your question is going to lead you towards a decision on yes or no, I guess, because Covered California is based on income and the type of coverage you want. So it doesn't matter. So if you want to take our $800 income and go bring that over to Covered California, then yes, you'd have an incredible subsidy that would probably far outweigh what the town's health benefit is, if that's what you're getting at. But otherwise, I don't understand why you would be trying to compare Covered California to this in terms of trying to incentivize somebody else to either run for council or not. I'm not sure that's what this conversation is about.
Okay. A lot of the comments indicated that diversity comes down to economic diversity, and so we want to make it possible for people with lower incomes to be attracted to positions on the council. And so I was wondering, why should the town pay if Covered California could provide?
I would argue that you're inferring what people meant by diversity. I don't think you have a definition of what 17 public commenters meant by diversity. And I would only use that explanation of diversity as in when I met with our diversity team, apparently all 5 of us also have a different definition of diversity. And that was very apparent to me in my meeting. So I'm not sure we're using diversity as a synonym that we are all sharing in its definition at this point, and I'm not sure that we are here to comment on the public comment either. We are here to accept public comment and listen to it, and you can choose to believe it or not. And that's your choice, but it's not really a question for staff.
Maybe to bring it back, I think I would echo you're using diversity in a pretty narrow in terms of income, and we tend to use it more broadly in terms of ethnicity, backgrounds, age, veteran status, that sort of thing. So that might be part of the confusion, but maybe high level, if you just look at this chart, a single person, if this were to be the plan that you would adopt, and part of why that's hard to answer is we don't know what you're interested in really, so we're just using this plan. A single person would have 0 contribution for coverage if you were to adopt this and they chose PERS Gold. So that would be a better benefit than Covered California.
For a single person.
For a single person.
Yeah.
The nuances of all the different scenarios of how many people would be covered we'd have to work with a potential council member or a council member interested in what they're getting and work through what could be offered for them to determine what works for them.
Yeah. Okay. And Councilmember Pallavi, I had the same problem with diversity. It wasn't clear to me what people were meant by it, but I thought I did see references to lower income people. The idea of trying to attract people that don't make as much money, but maybe I misread it.
I'll just say I think we're deliberating right now.
I know.
And I think we have public
I know.
commenters here, so I just want to be really
Thank you.
respectful of their time.
You're right. And so actually, and then so my final question, thank you, Councilmember Henderson. My final question is, we also don't have any comparisons showing that health care benefits actually improve the quality or performance level of council members.
There's no metrics that we could have for that.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions. Does anyone else have any follow-up questions after mine? Okay. Let's go to public comment. Would you please come to the podium, state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Well, good evening, Town Council. It's a pleasure to be here, first meeting of the year, and staff and everybody else in this room who I think I know. So it's good to see you all. I just want to say that I absolutely support extending medical benefits to yourselves. I know it can be really hard to do things like that because you are under scrutiny, which is another reason I really think you should do it. Electeds do not have an easy job. You guys are ridiculously poorly compensated, and we get things like physical threats. We get doxxed. We get corruption charges thrown our way. We get sued. We get, it is a lot. And the very least we can do for our electeds is take care of them. We value you. We value what you do for this town. We value you every day putting yourself out there in ways that a lot of people who haven't walked that walk can't understand. They don't understand. So I think there is a value on that you guys may not be taking into consideration. You know, and granted, I am somebody that thinks that healthcare is a moral imperative. I think that everybody deserves access. I wish everybody in this whole town had the ability to access healthcare. But that's simply not the case. And Jan, I can speak to you. When I ran for the PUD, I did not realize we received healthcare benefits. I was on Covered California. My children were on Medi-Cal. We're poor. And I can tell you that when I found out that we received health insurance and I began to take advantage of it, it changed my life in really ways that I did not imagine. The stress, I know I'm tearing up because it was that big of an impact for me and for my family, and I so appreciate it, and it made me a better board member because it enabled me to function without a stress that I didn't know I was carrying. It improved my focus. It improved my dedication to that job because I am so freaking grateful to have that benefit. So I just want to say that I think there are a lot of really strong reasons to support yourselves, to support each other, to allow us to say thank you for all you do. And if people are threatening physical violence against you, the least we can do is allow you to access a doctor to patch you up. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Krista.
Good evening, council members. I'm Joan Jones, citizen. As someone who did serve on the council, and I've been to this meeting every time this subject has come up. My views are probably well known. But I would just say that for me, public service is just that. It is service. It is not a place to come for a paycheck or a benefit. And my fear is that just what Krista said, is that the benefit becomes part of the service and the reason that you stay on the council. The cost of the benefits will more than double the budget for the council expenditures. Over the last 4 years, the budget has gone from $145,000 and it would go to $390,000 for council expenditures. I just wonder if that is the best use of our public monies, and if that is really something that we should spend that much money on. I believe in public benefit. I believe in health insurance. I just don't believe it should come from a public service office.
Hi, my name is David Diamond. I wanted to address the diversity consideration. One of the things that I think, when I think of the diversity that we need on our elected boards, is not necessarily just from race or economic status, but if we think about employment, there are those who work for government agencies who are fully insured, or bigger organizations that are fully insured, and those who work independently as freelancers or small business owners. It's not necessarily a low-income situation. It's just that health insurance becomes a big expenditure for them because of a reasonable income. They do not get any subsidies from Covered California or somewhere else. I also wanted to point out just a quick data point from our last election. Yourselves and Truckee Donner Rec and Park had 2 uncontested elections. Neither of you offer any benefits to your electeds. The airport, we offer benefits. We had 6 people running for 3 seats. Truckee Donner PUD, who also offers benefits, had 7 people running for 3 seats. And to address one of the other points that I've heard people make about whether this means that people come to these positions specifically for the insurance, I've heard this. I've had one of our electeds admit to me that they do this in appreciation of the insurance, and if it were not for the insurance, they would not have run for re-election. And as horrible as this sounds, this is one of the most consequential and effective elected leaders we have in this region. So the idea that, and I would extend this to staff, my guess is probably most of them are here for the paycheck. They love their job, they want to do good, as we all do, but there's certain things we can't do without compensation to do what to pay for the rest of our lives. I think this is a reasonable ask, and I do think that whatever we can do to encourage the best talent for all of these positions, I think is warranted. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Hello, my name is Barney Dewey. So good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. I think I already did submit most of my comments in writing, so I'm just going to summarize it here that, yes, I have strong support for providing the benefits to the town council members. I think it's important to recognize the time and the effort that you people put in, which I think is significant. One of my points was that the town, from the time it was incorporated until now, has growing significantly. So it's understandable why at the beginning there may not have been as benefits, but today your responsibility and the time you spend, I think, is dramatically more than it had been. Just this evening, we heard there are like 25 different committees that you guys are on, so it's not just the time, obviously, you're spending here, but there's lots of other task force and regional boards and other things that you have to prepare for and spend time on. One of the things that I think is really important is comparable, and I mean comparable up here, maybe not in your definition, but in the special districts up here and the other resort towns, South Lake Tahoe and Mammoth Lakes. Specifically, Tahoe Truckee Unified School District, Truckee Sanitary District, Truckee Donner Public Utility District, and the Truckee Tahoe Airport all do provide these benefits for the members and their families. And so I think that's really important. I think in general, you guys are probably putting more time and effort in than some of those boards. So anyway, I don't think it's just about providing financial support. I think it is a tangible way to acknowledge the work that you have done through the community, and I strongly encourage you to adopt the resolutions or provisions that you've done. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor, Council, town staff, people here watching on the TV. I'm Paco Lindsay. I'm a longtime Truckee resident. To me, this is not a novel, a radical, or some new concept to provide health benefits for a public agency, elected board. In fact, the town of Truckee is, in my opinion, is far behind the curve of what is normal for providing this benefit, as these slides show. In the staff report, out of the 16 local jurisdictions, only Truckee and 3 others do not provide benefits. One of the other smaller entities is the Alpine Springs Water District. With comparison agencies, out of 13, only Truckee and 1 other do not provide benefits. So tonight, I feel, rather than debating if Truckee should create health care for council, we should be asking, why don't we? I mean, it's so common. Why don't we? I understand, if you feel self-conscious to be discussing this issue, since you might think you're giving it to yourself. But I don't see it that way. Rather, I see it as bringing the council benefits up to speed of the 21st century and joining the overwhelming majority of regional agencies that already provide these care and benefits to their electeds. If it was a problem out there, I believe we would have heard about this by now from all these other agencies. So this is not about you, but it is for all the many councils that are going to come after this. People that are going to come next and come next and come next. It's not about you guys. It's about doing what's right. I hope to see a highly motivated and quality people serve on the council. There are people who work a second job just to pay for health insurance. With the 40 hours or more per month that I know you guys put in for this thing, how can somebody have 2 jobs and serve? You can't do that. I feel benefits are key to attracting good future council members. So basically, I just want to see this pass. I think that we should come up to speed in 2025 and pass this. One of the online comments that I read today is someone I watched grow up in Truckee. Her name is Jenna Elliott. I know Jenna, and she would be a great council member. I would be surprised, in fact, if she does not go on to serve someplace. I mean, she's a rock star. This person is fantastic. Coming from a recent college graduate, she's the next generation to lead us. And she stated clearly how important this benefit is for one to decide to run. And this is one of our big future leaders. So all I'm asking you is to please get up to speed 2025 and create benefits, again, knowing that it's not just for you guys, but it's for the future of this town and for the future council that's going to be sitting up here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Paco. Any other public comments? Are there any council questions to follow up on any of the public comments? Okay. If not, let's move into deliberation. I think Where did I start last time? Down here? Let's start down here with you, Councilmember Pallavi.
Yeah, I'm in support of moving forward, and will defer my time to Councilmember Henderson and Klofstad on this one, as they've done a lot of research, and I appreciate that. But in general, I agree with what Paco said. I agree with a lot of the public commenters. Yes, this is awkward and challenging, and I've been up here for a lot of awkward decisions when we appointed you, Councilmember Zabriskie, when we've done other compensation things, and I think this is just another example of the way in which we serve at the end of the day, and and some of the decisions that we make. And this isn't a self-interested service. This is exactly what Paco said. We're serving ourselves right now. We have a couple of years left, 4 years for some, 2 years for others, and there'll be many councils that come after us, where people will be making decisions on how they run and if they run and what they can afford to do with their lives. And Board Member Finn, your comments, obviously resonate with me significantly, and I think this topic is not a matter of if or when. It's a matter of now, and I think now is as good a time as any. And the research has been done, and I appreciate staff putting it all together, and I'm in support of us moving forward. I think if this is the proposal in front of us, I'm in support of it, and I'm interested to hear what my other council members have to say. So thank you. And thank you for all your public comments. Appreciate it on all sides.
Councilmember Pallavi, just as clarification, we've been talking about health care benefits, and when you say you support adoption, is that in addition to the health care benefits, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other items that were up for, or no, almost 10.
Yeah, I don't think we are going to get to agreement on creating an employee group for all 5 of us, so I'm not in favor of that one, or at least I don't think I am, because I don't think we're going to get all 5 of us to agree to that, so I don't really think that's an option. And as far as the other ones go, I think they were all somewhat voluntary. I guess I'm not as well versed in those, and I'm happy to hear what my other council members have to say. But those would be voluntary. Those would be voluntary add-ons.
Well, the dental and vision would be important to get.
Yeah, health, dental, vision. Okay. I agree with what's in front of us, with the proposal in front of us on the screen.
So he's referring to the 3
Mid-management
benefits
employee
that
group,
should be on the
benefit
screen in front of you.
package.
Okay.
Yes.
So everything where the town would have to pay in.
Yeah. As far as the voluntary life insurance and the short and long-term disability, I guess I wasn't really clear on what they're fully paid by the employee, so I guess we can adopt them, because then they're fully paid by the employee, and it's fully electable if we want to participate or not, right?
Correct. You could choose to participate or not.
So sure.
Okay. And you are correct. We probably wouldn't get anywhere on the one that requires all 5 council members.
Yeah, I'm not here to pick that argument right now.
But other than that one, you're in favor of the ones where the town puts in money, which is health, dental, and vision, as well as all the other items that are voluntary.
I am, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Member Henderson.
Thank you. I'm actually, if Councilmember Klofstad wants to go before me, we're linked because of the Brown Act, so I know you have a lot of thoughts that you want to share, so I would defer to you, and we can circle back to me if that's okay.
Yeah.
I would be happy to. Thank you. And Bonnie, I just have to say thank you for a very detailed staff report and for all the questions that you answered in advance. It's been very, very helpful. I know it was a lot of work, so thank you. I also have to start with another thank you, and that's to everybody that submitted public comment in support of this initiative. More often than not, the feedback we receive up here is focused on concerns, opposition to things, or just downright complaining. This has been a breath of fresh air. comments submitted on this agenda item in support of it made me feel valued and supported in my work up here in a way that I've never felt before. I feel seen for my dedication to this community and the service that I do as a Truckee Town Council member. These messages truly changed my life just hearing them, and honestly have inspired me to work even harder for Truckee and our region. And I really hope that my fellow council members can let some of that in. They're talking about all of us. So again, just thank you. I'm so honored. So a little background, when Truckee incorporated in 1993, it was a small rural town, and the model of volunteer service without benefits may have worked really well then. But our town has evolved, and so must our governance as well. Traditions are important. I really value our traditions of Truckee, but only when they serve the present and the future community, as Paco describes. Truckee has transformed from a small working class town into an international destination over the last 30 years. Tourism revenue alone has grown over 1,000%. Population and housing have nearly doubled, creating complex land use and infrastructure demands. Town staff has grown by 57% in just the last 20 years, supporting new programs like housing, wildfire mitigation, sustainability, emergency response, creating entire new divisions. And the budget has really grown, and this has been really good for our community. It has allowed us to do incredible capital improvement projects and bring so much benefit to our community. And so with all of this, our roles as council members have expanded to match this growth, requiring us to oversee a $70+ million budget coming up this year. Managing multiple initiatives, serving on multiple committees, as we just talked about earlier this evening, and boards, and engaging in extensive regional collaboration. And despite these increased demands, the support for our elected officials remains stagnant and outdated. Offering healthcare benefits is about aligning our governance structure with Truckee's modern needs. As a council, we consistently ask our community to invest in programs like trails, transit, and workforce housing because these are investments in Truckee's future. Extending healthcare benefits to council members is no different. It's an investment in the people who negotiate, prioritize, and fight for these initiatives on behalf of our community. So there have been some concerns expressed, and I really value the bravery of that and the honesty of those comments. So I want to address a few of them. One is the cost. You know, at $160,000 or $70,000 annually, the worst case scenario, this is not insignificant. It is an investment, though. It's an investment that our comparator agencies, comparator municipalities have chosen to make, to invest in good governance that's sustainable and consistent and high quality. I think we can do the same. Tradition. I've heard this a lot. Holding on to outdated practices isn't reason enough to resist change. Traditions that once excluded women from being able to vote or owning property were overturned because they no longer served the public good. And similarly, I think it's time to modernize how we support our elected officials. And then the perception of self-interest. This is really hard. It is incredibly awkward. But as Paco so eloquently put, this is not about benefiting our current council members. It's about ensuring future leaders feel supported. And making public service accessible to all, a broad range of diversity criteria, and attracting good quality candidates to lead Truckee's future is imperative. And about the reason to run, the elected officials that wouldn't run without the benefits. So let me be clear. If our partner agencies in comparable municipalities did not offer healthcare benefits to their elected officials, I would not be asking for this and advocating for this change today. I'm fully aware that we have had some candidates and elected officials who were more interested in the benefits than the service. However, it is clear from our benefits and pay, that is not the case for our council. This elected position in particular, Truckee Town Council service, is simply too hard unless you have a passion for governance of this amazing yet complex town. And if we have more candidates willing to run, as Director Diamond pointed out, because of healthcare, that's a win for the community because they have more choices for their leaders. So providing healthcare benefits sends a clear message. As Director Finn expressed, that Truckee values public service and seeks to make it accessible to all, regardless of financial or personal circumstances. So I really see this as an opportunity that we all have to strengthen the foundation of Truckee's governance by extending health care, dental, and vision benefits to the council members and their families. That way we ensure our leaders are supported in serving and on this growing and dynamic council, supporting our growing and dynamic town. So specifically, I'm in support of resolutions 2025-7 and 2025-8 and the associated budget adjustment to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Klofstad. And now we'll turn, I guess, back to Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I similarly have some remarks prepared and have been jotting notes down as we have the conversation. I've reflected on and analyzed this issue for the past several years. I have spent, I can't even tell you how many hours, countless hours researching it. I have spoken with dozens of elected officials in other jurisdictions throughout the entire state of California. And there are a few points that are really important to me tonight. The first reflects something that Councilmember Klofstad said, that good governance requires modern practices. In nearly every single profession, policies and benefits evolve to meet current needs and expectations. Governing Truckee today requires far more time, expertise, and commitment simply because of all of the changes that it has gone through and the complexity. The support systems for council members and for those who inhabit this role must evolve accordingly. Just as we conduct comp and class studies for our employees to ensure we retain high caliber staff and we are able to attract new staff, we should similarly be evaluating the council against other jurisdictions. We've seen that many other jurisdictions, our comparators and local jurisdictions, similar to the town of Truckee in size, mountain location, geography, and other metrics, offer these benefits to their elected officials. This is about bringing council compensation or benefits in line with the market, just as we do for the employees who we so deeply value. This does place a value on public service. Clinging to a tradition of not providing benefits really undermines the principle of fair treatment for those who dedicate their time and their energy and make countless sacrifices to public service. Does our community value the service of those in this role on council less than they value the service of those who serve on our other boards who offer benefits? On the PUD, on the airport board, is the service of council less valuable to our community? I would argue that it is not. It's clear that our community's views on this have shifted as our town has changed. Of 22 written comments, 17 were in support. Of 5 comments tonight, in person, for, were in support. And I am grateful to everyone who turned out. I'm listening to you. No decision is ever going to leave everyone happy. We accept that with every single decision that we make up here, but I'm still grateful for all of the public comment and the perspectives that have been shared. Diversity is broad. It's not just my ethnicity or my home ownership status. This could support attracting business owners who don't have health coverage. It could support the next generation of younger leaders who are up and coming. It could support those who are self-employed and don't have access to affordable healthcare coverage. I'd say that there's also a distinction between the self and the role. This isn't about providing healthcare benefits just to those of us who happen to be sitting up here in this role tonight. It is, as Paco mentioned, providing these benefits for those who are willing to take on this role, this service, now and in the future. It's about valuing the role and the service that the role entails. Similar to Councilmember Klobstad, I have received arguments on oppositional points of view, and I understand those, and I hear you on those. One that I've heard is that you don't do public service for compensation or benefits. I agree with that entirely. And I never like to speak for my fellow council members, but I would be willing to bet that not a single one of us up here tonight dedicates the dozens upon dozens upon dozens of hours that we do every month in this role for the roughly $800 in compensation that we get each month. We don't do it for that. We do it because we care about Truckee, because we are passionate, because we care about our community and doing good in this community. The other key argument that I've heard in opposition is that it's not a tradition to provide benefits to council. I would first argue that a lack of something, a lack of providing something, doesn't inherently make it a tradition. Perhaps more importantly, societal progress involves reevaluating practices to align with contemporary values and priorities. Traditions shift, traditions change. Traditions shouldn't justify inequity or stagnation in any community or society. I want to end by sharing a personal story that deeply informs my worldview of why I believe everyone deserves access to affordable health care. Whether you're in the private sector, the public sector, self-employed, an elected official, or anyone in between. I believe that everyone deserves access to affordable health care. 4 years ago, my son, who was 4 at the time, had a truly horrific accident. I was remoting into a council meeting at the time. It was during COVID, and I was back in upstate New York for my godfather's funeral. My husband called, and I didn't answer the phone because I was in council, and he knows when I'm in council, I'm not available. And then I started getting 911 text messages. So I called him back with council in one ear and him in the other. And he said, Colton is unconscious and non-responsive. He is being medevaced from Tahoe Forest to Renown. They don't know if he's going to make it, and you need to get on the first flight home. It was about 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast. Couldn't get on a flight. The folks at Tahoe Forest were amazing. They got him on that care flight right away. They got him down to Renown. My husband had to drive down. He couldn't get on with them. The first flight that I could get was 6 a.m. out of JFK, so I stayed up all night. My brother drove me 3 hours to JFK, and I got on that 6 a.m. flight. I sat on the flight, and I was in tears, because my beautiful baby boy hadn't woken up yet, and we didn't know if he would. So right as we're about to take off, right before they do the announcement, turn off your cell phones, I get a call. He said, "It's awake." He was sedated. He was under restraint, so he wouldn't pull out his intubation tube. And he wrapped himself up, and he pulled out that intubation tube on his own, and all the alarms went off, and they rushed in with the crash cart. And I said, "That's my son. He's a fighter." He made it. He had a terrible concussion. It was okay. We spent several days in the ICU down at Renown, and I got back to him that afternoon. No one should be in a position to worry that they can't afford their medical bills. We had bills totaling over $150,000 between Tahoe Forest, between the nights in the NICU, and between the $50,000 care flight. No one in a time of crisis should worry that their medical bills will bankrupt their family. Everyone deserves access to affordable health care. The town should be a leader in providing access to healthcare benefits. We need to be the good that we want to see in the world. I'm up here in this role to be that good. And so for all of the reasons that I've mentioned, and for my worldview on healthcare, I support the resolution before us extending medical, dental, and vision insurance benefits to council members and their families.
Thank you. And that, of course, when you say you support all these items, that also includes the voluntary ones.
Yes, those don't cost the
Okay.
town anything. I think that's acceptable.
Thank you. Councilmember Lindsay Romack.
Yes. I feel like I need to dry my eyes a little bit, Councilmember Henderson. I can remember when you had to leave the meeting, and then I think we found out later, and we're all so glad everything was okay, and that Colton was here earlier tonight. So, whew, okay. I did a few comments, kind of starting with a few affirmations and reflections, and kind of dovetailing off that health and well-being, access to healthcare are incredibly important. I think also that it is important that our town council reflects our community, and that we should strive to try to get different types of people with different ages and different incomes and different backgrounds to truly represent our community. I think we all work incredibly hard, the five of us up here, and bring our creativity and our thoughtfulness, dedication, sacrifice to our roles, and acknowledging that. And to your comments, Councilmember Clove said, the thank you and appreciation to the community for recognizing that. That made me feel seen as well, and it is truly appreciated that our community recognizes the work we do and the time commitment we do. With that all said, I do feel like I am frustrated and disappointed in the timing of this discussion. Just over 2 months ago, we asked the voters to pass Measure E, and I know there were some questions around that, and there was a lot of conversation in the community of asking the community to do more, and things cost a lot, and the voters did support it, more than 61%. But it feels almost inappropriate that one of our first actions is then to give benefits to ourselves. And I appreciate the comments that it's not just about us, that it is about the future as well. But again, the timing of this just doesn't sit well with me. Also on timing, we're undergoing the Baker Tilly assessment that's taking a broad look at our town, our staffing levels, our efficiencies, ways we could be doing things better. And I understand hopefully we might get a draft report in the next month or two. And I think some of the questions around, 170,000 is not a lot, but it is still something. And the answer that could be a staff position. So the timing, again, feels challenging to me that we're making this decision to, again, benefit ourselves starting March 1st, potentially, without getting this assessment back to truly understand what some of the recommendations are going to be, the needs that we're going to need, along with whatever funding we're getting from Measure E. And then finally, just a little bit of disappointment in the rush of this, this came up at the last council meeting, and it was asked, can we do a workshop 2 days from now? And I could not miss work because I was about to go out of town, so I had to do that, so I couldn't participate in a workshop. And I think I mentioned at that meeting, I would be happy to have this discussion as part of our work plan. And I think once we have had more of that information, to be able to better, I think, Jen, you said we're always making choices and we have to weigh our choices. And that's where I feel like I would have much preferred to have all that information and it be part of our budget process as we're looking forward, rather than it being rushed. I felt bad for staff that right before the holidays, I know how crazy everybody gets, that we were asking them to have an additional meeting when, again, we know staff capacity is challenging. So those are all issues that I'm struggling with. And again, I wish this would have come forward at a different time. And again, because I don't feel like I've seen the assessment yet, I'm not comfortable moving forward with this tonight of the town contribution. I will say I am in support of moving forward with the potential for some of the voluntary plans. As you know, again, it doesn't cost the town anything. And actually, I think when we talked about this 2.5 years ago, one of the things I brought up of it would be great if childcare or something around that could be part of this, because that is something when we talk about younger folks getting involved, oftentimes they have children. And so the fact that a voluntary opportunity now is you could start a flexible spending account for dependent care. And that could be your choice, but you could potentially get pre-tax dollars going towards childcare that could help you at council meetings in the future and watching your kid. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
I have the same concern about timing and whether this is an appropriate time to be considering an expenditure for the council when we did just pass Measure E, and the first thing we do is give ourselves a benefits package. The perception is a bad one. It diminishes our reputation in the community, and I think we need to be cognizant of that and do what we can to minimize that negative impact on our reputation. I don't see a rush to adopt it. People are talking about this is a long-term change. We've gone 30 years without it. I don't know that we need to do it tonight, because what we really should be doing as a matter of good government is putting this in the context of the town's other needs. And we have the Baker-Tilly report still to come out. We already have this projection in connection with Measure E that showed we would be spending about we have capital projects of about $57 million in the pipeline, and anticipated increase in annual expenditures of $250,000. And Measure E was supposed to increase our revenues by $3.5 million. And there's some other expenses in there that means in about 76 years, we'll be able to pay for those capital expenditures, which is way past all of our lifetimes. In terms of the merits of the proposal, I don't see the shortage of qualified candidates that the other people do. There's nothing in the town's 30-year history that we lack for candidates who are quite qualified. In fact, much of our reputation and accomplishments are built on people who work simply for a stipend. And we owe the people who came before us a lot. And I am concerned about a change in expectations. I heard that repeatedly from the council members and in some of the comments, that days have changed, that we no longer work as volunteers for the good of our communities. Now we expect compensation. And I believe the tradition in Truckee has always been that we are different, that we do still believe in public service in and of itself. We don't look at financial gain as a reason to put in those hours doing public service for the community. And then I look at diversity and I wonder, well, do we really increase diversity in any shape or form with the addition of health benefits? And we don't see any evidence when we compare jurisdictions that pay health benefits and those that don't. And in terms of research, we have not conducted the research. Staff has responded that council has not directed them to do the research, And essentially that means until we do, they're not going to do it themselves. What little we know is that abstract that showed up that said actually it's the opposite effect when you when you increase compensation to elected officials. What you see is the wealthier people chasing the money, not the less fortunate. Is there a better way of improving council diversity and performance? Well, there are ways of improving it, but it's not by paying council members more. It's about paying to go out into the community and interact with the members of our community, to act with the diverse segments of our community and engage them and get them involved in civic activities. Help them learn that they can be a part of this community, and then helping them make them their way up the ladder to where they can run for town council and start representing us there. The tougher one, we've repeatedly heard how the council works so hard and so members deserve more compensation. Well, the health benefits would more than double income for single coverage and quadruple income for the family of 3. That's a big jump. Now, when I say it jumps income, yes, those health benefits are limited to health benefits. You don't get to put it in your pocket, but it is equivalent to an increase in income because it saves you the money that you would otherwise spend on health care. And then council members only work part-time. We're not full-time employees here. We have jobs. Well, all of you have jobs. This is a part-time job, and you put in the extra hours on this job because, as you said, you believe in it. As I think it was Council Member Henderson or Klofstad mentioned, we don't work for the money. Well, let's keep it that way. Let's keep working because we believe in public service and doing good by our community. That's how we attract a better candidate pool. Let's not be looking for people to run for office because they're going to make money doing so. Well, if they win. And then finally, I'm coming back to the timing. The quality of our town staff is more important than the quality of our council. We may pat ourselves on the back and get accolades from a few members of the community, but let's face it, we come and go. We're gone. It's the staff. It's the institutional knowledge of the people who work here. It's the quality of their work that really makes a difference in this town. The reason we have such a good reputation is because of our plow drivers, our police force, and the other employees that interact with our community and provide a great public service. It's not the council. So that's where I think the money ought to go. And in order to decide how much should go to staff and what those needs are, we need to wait until we're looking at the budget, until after we have the Baker-Tilly report. So we're actually at a point where we have 3 votes for. So I'm looking for someone, one of those 3 votes, who's ready to put this off to a better time when we can put this proposed benefits into context.
So I'll jump in if now's a good
Sure.
time, Mayor
Yeah.
Zabriskie. I'll say that I respectfully yet fundamentally disagree with Council Members Romack and Zabriskie. I believe deeply in public service. I think that commitment is more than evident through my numerous efforts, and everyone's up here. I also believe there's no better time than the present to lead. So I move that we adopt the resolution before us, extending medical, dental, and vision insurance benefits and providing town contributions to active members of the town council and their families if they so choose, effective March 1st, 2025, as well as offering the optional no-cost benefits as described in the staff report.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Well, I guess we should do a count.
Do you want a roll call vote? And before we do that, I know there's a motion on the floor. We just have a couple of clarifying questions. Do you want to go ahead?
So there was one additional town benefit, which is the life insurance, which does have a town cost. And I just want to get clarity whether that is one of the benefits you're
talking about when you're saying the additional town benefits, or if it's just the ones that have no cost to the town, that were grouped together on this slide, and does not include the group life insurance, as well as the retirement health savings account.
Bonnie, I think what you're saying is the council, the majority of the council, in moving to adopt both resolutions, didn't realize that voluntary life insurance involves town contribution.
I think the question is to the maker of the motion and the seconder if they're what they intended to include in that motion. Since you have one on the floor, you have to work it through the motion.
Okay.
So I'll clarify. My intention was just when I said in addition to the health, dental, and vision, just the no cost electable benefits within this list.
And
so not, for example, the $50,000 in life insurance, which has an additional town cost.
Was that is that what you were understanding you seconded, Vice Mayor?
That is correct. And I think earlier, Councilmember Pallavi was astute in pointing out that we would not gain consensus for the retirement health savings, so that was also off the table.
Yep. And then on the other point of clarification, just I feel like I have to say this, not referring to them as no cost. I think what we're saying is there's no cost from the town in terms of financial dollars, but there's certainly some amount of staff time, and that is a value and a cost. So I just think we need to recognize that.
So the benefits that do not entail a financial contribution from the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And seconded.
Thank you. So now
we
you have
take
the
a
motion.
roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Romack.
No.
Vice Mayor Klostad.
Yes.
Mayor Zabriskie.
No.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Pallavi.
Yes.
Great. The item passes 3-2.
Okay, thank you. Now we can move on to council reports.
I just want to back up just procedurally so we are all clear on this. You will get an amended town resolution. It won't impact the PERS resolution on consent at the next meeting, adding those additional benefits in there. We can't craft the language right here tonight, so it won't affect the timing, but you'll see that on consent with those additional benefits.
Okay, now let's move on to council reports. Councilmember Pallavi, let's start at your end and then we'll work our way across. You want to start at the other end?
I don't think I have anything to report, as a matter of fact, because I think, like I said when we were eating dinner, I think I've just worked for 60 days straight to get through the holidays. What was our last council meeting?
December 10th.
December 10th. I went to the town holiday party. We had a visit Truckee, Tahoe, closed board session. What else did we do? Went to a couple of holiday parties, I guess. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm good. Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Mayor Zabriskie. Also attended the town holiday party. I think it was our best ever town holiday party.
Best ever.
So
Definitely.
It was really wonderful. Just the turnout was amazing. Thank you so much to everyone at Town Hall who worked so hard to put that on, who invited so many of our partners. It was spectacular. Thank you. I went to a bunch of other holiday parties as well and can't even keep track. I think the other big things to report, so as Jen mentioned during her town manager report, I was nominated for and accepted into this Rodell Fellowship. This is the first year that they're doing a California cohort. It is 24 leaders from across the entire state of California. So I just spent the past 3 days over the weekend with my California cohort, which is truly incredible. It is intended to bring together people across the political spectrum to really have diverse perspectives and to engage in some really hard conversations around leadership and what that means and how we think ethically about decisions that we make, whether that's from a utilitarianism perspective or a deontological perspective, and went through Aristotle's values and what that means in the context of public service. It was truly transformative. I have so much that I want to share with everyone here, and hopefully we'll have some time for that because I certainly learned a tremendous amount. The other big thing to report is that my planning commissioner, Daniel Freeman, who has, very kindly served over the past 4 years and served prior to that as well, he'll be stepping down from his role at Planning Commission. And so I have been interviewing the applicants to Planning Commission. I extended an interview to every single person who applied in order to be fair and to give everyone that opportunity. I have had interviews with 6 individuals. I have some more scheduled for next week. And so very soon we will have a new planning commissioner joining our commission. So thank you also to the folks at Town Hall who helped me to get those scheduled. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Klostad.
Okay, the dance party was my favorite part of the holiday party. Oh, it was great. Anytime I can dance, especially with my husband. So I'm going to do a recap on our Climate Transformation Alliance quarterly meeting that happened last week, because we had 4 local agencies present and talk about positive effects on our region's greenhouse gas reductions that they've done. So the first was the Truckee Tahoe Airport, which shared its sustainable aviation fuel policy. They are the first and only airport in the nation to have only sustainable aviation, or SAF, fuel, reducing their fuel emissions by 23%. They also changed their services, now providing an electric vehicle to provide full service fueling at no additional cost, and this minimizes the planes having to use their engines to taxi across the airport for fuel. So another great impact there. Truckee Donner PUD, they really drove home the point that everyone must first measure GHG impacts in order to be able to manage GHG impacts or reductions. TDPUD is incorporating a GHG filter when looking at their utility operations, standard practices, and capital practices now. And because of that, they've made a few significant changes, including adding a couple of EV trucks to their fleet, more on the way. And then the big change was the adding a new pump station and tank that increases pumping efficiency. And then also the increased storage capacity, which allows them to pump water up there at times of the day where electricity is very reasonable and green, during the day when solar panels are juicing up and windmills are running. And then finally, their new residential time of use rate. And if you haven't looked at this, I encourage you to do so. It provides financial incentives to people that are willing to shift their usage to those periods of time where energy is cheap and green. So take a look at that on their website. And then our own staff presented about the employee commute reduction policy and programs. And I think there were a lot of big eyes and nodding heads in the room of just the significance of this impact with such a simple policy. So this is our town staff being able to earn vacation time for commuting to work using alternative transportation, so biking, carpooling, public transit. And it also offers flexible work schedules, including telework Fridays for staff who are able to do so. And they estimate that these programs have reduced employee commute emissions by about 10%, which is pretty significant given that the town of Truckee is one of the largest employers in the town limits. They also talked about TARC Connect and B-Cycle, connecting those first mile, last mile, and we heard a lot about that earlier this evening, so I won't drill down on that. But they do think that in the 10 months of operation B-Cycle, well, they said this, that they've eliminated approximately 40,000 pounds of carbon. They had that on one of their slides that would have otherwise been generated. And then the Lyft Wellness Workspace presented on its many programs for sustainable practices, including composting, reusable foodware, telework facilities, work, play, exercise, all in one location, and a whole bunch more of really great features. So that was the highlight of last week for me. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very interesting and appreciate that update. Also, thank you, Councilmember Henderson, for your organization of the drive collecting things for LA. And I do know someone who works in Tahoe City. So if you need help finding locations in Tahoe City, let me know. I'm happy to help out. But thank you for doing that. And similar to Councilmember Henderson, my planning commissioner, Dave Gove, will also be finishing out his term and moving on. So I, too, am conducting interviews. I've talked with 4 of the folks so far, and I'm sure you have found similarness in this, Councilmember Henderson, but we have incredible candidates, and it's going to be really hard to pick up another planning commissioner, which is fantastic. And just always encourage whoever are not the 2 that end up on planning commission that folks continue to stay involved. Because again, we've got some new faces, some faces that have been around along. I won't say old, but just it's been fantastic so far. I attended most of the TMA, the Truckee North Tahoe Transportation Management Association meeting remotely last week, where there was discussions from NDOT on some of their practices, acknowledgement from Dan, thanking the coordination of, again, that I know town staff has worked hard on, of when Interstate 80 closes, let's try to close it down, more in Reno where there's more services available. So that was great. And then there was a discussion on the TMA's strategic plan and just some of the work that they're looking to continue to do. And are they more advocacy? Are they implementers and whatnot? So more discussions on that strategic plan. And then I unfortunately did not attend any holiday parties, keeping with the medical theme. We've had a broken leg, emergency hand surgery, and an ER visit with a CT scan in the last month and a half in my family. So apologize for missing the R2SC meeting last week to our chair, but it's been a little bit chaotic. So, but everyone's good. So, but I was bummed. Yeah, they all look fine now. But I was bummed to miss the holiday parties and a variety of other great activities. So I'm glad you all had fun.
You were there in spirit.
Thank you. I attended the Economic Vitality meeting, which is involved now in looking at catalyst projects for West and East River Street. There was a Truckee River Legacy Foundation meeting I attended where they're looking at their positions on river restoration, the reach of the river, and then the extent to which they want to be involved in redevelopment ideas. The town sponsored an idea meeting, that's the inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. Well, it was a meeting, it was a presentation at the community center where people were able to learn a lot more about what's being considered, and it was just fun to see the great turnout. I was really impressed by the number of community members who showed up. There was Good Morning Truckee, then the mayor managers meeting down in, were we in Nevada City? Grass Valley. And learning about epic dome houses. Mitch, epic ship dome houses. And then, yeah, thank you. And then a river revitalization meeting, which again was focused somewhat on catalyst projects. And then, as Lindsay mentioned, I attended the Truckee North Tahoe Transportation Management Association meeting and celebrate Dan's retirement. I hope he's happy to be off as chairman, having passed the gavel to someone else. Yeah. Okay, that's it. We have a closed session, so now we will adjourn to closed session. Thank you,
Unless
everyone.
anyone has public comment about closed session, which of course we're happy to take.
Yes. Let's have public comment on Andy Morris, please, people. Okay, seeing none, we're adjourned. Good night.